everybody. If it's Wednesday and Christmas Eve, then it must be Warhammer. Joining me, as always, is my very festive co-host, Tom. Tom, who else is joining us there today?
This is Mr. Beast. Say hi, Mr. Beast.
Do you want to explain Mr. Beast?
He is our family's newest addition. Yes. Hey, buddy. You look at the camera and say hi. Yeah.
He looks very excited about all this.
He's tired. Yes. I woke him up.
This was a gift to your children for Christmas.
This is what
right?
delays are all about, folks. This is what makes delays.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This was a gift for your children for Christmas, correct?
It's the addition of a family member. Let's say that.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sure that it's your dog as much as it's anyone else's dog. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. When I go somewhere, he follows me around the house.
Oh, that's good. That's good. If you can get him to go outside, then you'll really be in a good situation.
I mean, he's doing pretty well. He's he's 8 weeks, so there's no he's not fully housebroken, but we're getting there.
All right. Well, good luck. Good luck. So this is our Christmas special. Tonight we're going to be talking about Naughty Warscrolls we'd like to make nice. That's the idea of the thing. So we're going to look at some of the worst scrolls in AOS. Oh, do you? Okay. So yes, clearly my wife was watching and wanted to and felt left out. What do you feel left out?
Yes, our dogs were not being acknowledged.
Okay. Yes, they're all adorable.
Come here. Yes, you're the cute one. I know. Come on up.
Okay. Yes. Hi. Yes, these are my dogs. Okay. Very good. I knew as soon as I heard footsteps down the stairs that this was the impetus for this. All right. You're very good dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear.
Wait, yours didn't get up near.
That's all right. She'll be okay. Come here. There we go. There. That's my dog. There you go. Hi. Okay. Now we can stop barking. Thank you. All right. Okay. Good start to a show. There you go. All right. At any rate, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight after that chaos. Tell you what,
doggos.
If you like dogs, why not hit the like button right now? Just that way, even if you leave because of the chaos, you're like, I like dogs, hit the like button. See? Hit like for dogs. If you don't hit like, then you don't like adorable dogs and puppies. That's what I'll say. So, at any rate, very excited about tonight's show. We're going to get into that. Yes, dear.
I'm going to bring them back if you need
I'm good. More likes. No, we're fine.
Are you sure?
We're okay.
You let me know.
Okay. Thank you, dear.
Okay,
girls. All right. But anyways, as always, let's start with the news.
So rumor engine.
Yeah, so there was lots of rumor engines, obviously, still, and I'm not going to pull them all up. Most of them were super boring. But this one was the interesting one. I pulled this was from day 19, so this was in between last week's show and this show. And I pulled this one because it so clearly seems to be the same model, right? Like, this looks like the left and right arm of the same model. Obviously, we looked at Hammer Guy last week, and some people, like I had said, maybe Lord of the Rings model or whatever, because it's this unadorned hammer. Like, I don't remember who called what. Doesn't matter. But then we got this other side of it with this big embellished rifle, and I was like, suddenly I am way more interested.
Now you have my attention.
Absolutely.
Because the hammer and glove just simply looked like a Middle Earth model. That's what I had called. But when you throw in that pistol-ish rifle, which is clearly like the aesthetic that we've seen on like the Witch Hunter-esque, like
I mean it's clearly it's a pump action shotgun. Like you can clearly see where he can like boom,
Yes.
Like, yes. Or a pump action rifle, I should say.
So I think that these are probably more likely AOS, and in fact, I might even go as far as to say that these could be our Order of Azir, which like vampire hunters.
Yeah, man, 100%. That's what I'm behind. Like, look, if you get vampires, as we said, this was Clint's call, right? Was that it's a vampire hunter or whatever last week, and as we joked last week, when you get vampires, you get vampire hunters like right behind. Okay, so either this is like a new witch hunter, vampire hunter, whatever concept for Warhammer Quest, or just for the main line. Thank you. Yes, lever action. Yes, you can see where you can actually like. Yeah, that's the name of that. Where you can like, whatever.
Yeah, you shoot it. It goes pew pew.
Thank you. Lever action is apparently the correct term, so thank you.
And everybody said it, but
many
the
people said it. That's
delayed.
Fine. Good. Yeah, that's fine. So I don't know gun terminology, but I'm glad to see we've got people who do. So to me, like the Witch Hunter was a classically iconic model that a lot of people loved. The Order of Aesir stuff we've talked about for years as being such an easy slam dunk of a release, but they haven't really. Go ahead.
I just didn't understand why they hadn't done it. Now I know why. They needed something for them to fight.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's no reason. As usual, they like to see the correct narrative reason to introduce sort of an army, right? Like, why is a thing happening? And but like this gives them the proper enemy. Once the vampires and those things show up, boom, then all of a sudden the witch hunters can come out. Beyond excited. That feels exactly like what this is. I will be so disappointed if this is a 40K model. Like, so disappointed. I don't know how it could be with that hammer, but if it is, my God, I would be so sad. If it was like some Adeptus Mechanicus thing or a witch hunter or inquisitor or something in 40K, I would we riot. That's the answer.
Yep.
Yeah. So, cool. That's the one I wanted to talk about because I thought this one would be the most interesting stuff. The other ones were just like cloaks and crowns and things that were a bunch of hot nothing, right? So whatever, it's fine.
Totally.
All right. Next news item.
We got a really interesting like teaser announcement news confirmation thing, which basically said, "Hey, delays in Q1 are delayed, like our releases in Q1 are delayed.
Yeah,
but here are the books for 40K for the next 3 months, and oh by the way, here's a preview army that's going to drop in 2 days on Christmas Day, and here's a very obviously hooked shaped question mark."
Okay, so you're wrong, but that's okay. I mean, let's talk about the downside of this first. Like, so for those who haven't been paying attention to, and like, look, even I have only been paying some attention. Like, I don't live in the UK, obviously, but even I know from a distance that the trade negotiations between the UK and the rest of Europe, the EU, have not been going, I think, as swimmingly as some people would have hoped.
No, the Grand Chancellor has been causing problems.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, yes. There's some kind of blockade around Naboo. I'm not sure. Yes, I might have been watching the news in between the prequels or something. I'm not sure what was what. But, like I saw a 20-mile backed up line of trucks from the Dover port or whatever, which is not a great day, I would imagine, for those truckers. I could only think about how terrible that is. But anyways, between that and obviously the ongoing pressure of COVID, they said, okay, look, we got to slow this down. So they are moving to an every other week release announcement schedule, which is funny how sad I was about that. Like, on one side, it's good, I suppose, because like you can get some more breathing room. But on the other side, I had become so used to the cadence of like
every week.
Of like just every week news. Something exciting to like
hot news injection.
It's like a slot machine every week. It like lots of weeks there's gonna be stuff I don't care about. It's gonna be Black Library novels and crap for 40K I'm not interested in or whatever, right? But at the same time, like this could be the week, right? Like this, like it could be anything. It could be a boat. And now it's gonna be every other week. Now it's only for the first quarter, as of right now.
Right.
So there's like we'll see how long it goes on. They did say yes, for 40K there will be at least a battle tome thing every month with Death Guard in January, like that we already know Death Guard, because Death Guard was supposed to originally release now. Like we should have Death Guard in our hands right now.
Yep.
And yes, we're getting and most importantly, then the AOS army will launch basically in early February.
Well,
And
a AOS army that hasn't been previewed yet with the
they
battle
didn't say
tome.
that. They did not say that has not been previewed yet. That
Do you
was
really think it's Slaanesh?
yes, that's exactly what it is. It's just the
Oh.
Slaanesh army, guys. Like, I know we all are excited. That's not when you're getting vampires. That doesn't mean the vampires aren't coming. They are. Okay?
Yeah.
I have full faith and confidence in vampires arriving. It's not the vampire army being announced to come out in February. Guys, hey, team, there's a whole series of 10 models that they've spoiled like 8 of. That ain't coming in a Broken Realms thing. Okay? There's
I mean,
10
I
new War
know.
Scrolls. It's getting a
I
battle
know.
tome, and most of that army has been seen. So
I
what do
know.
you think the next battle tome is? Like, this is the least mysterious mystery in history.
But do you think that we're not going to get Slaanesh in January and then that whatever this thing is in February?
No, I think that so the exact quote is, for Warhammer Age of Sigmar fans, you will see the next new battle tome, begin parens, and a bunch of incredible minis, close parens, drop in February. Meaning that is the next time a battle tome and its associated new minis will drop. Right? Okay. Trust us, this one's a doozy. We'll even give you a sneak peek of it on Christmas Day. So,
yeah, I guess so.
It's Slaanesh.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, that's super disappointing then. Not getting that for my birthday army.
look, vampires will come, but like we're not getting the vampire warband until March, and those generally run ahead of the army releases.
Yeah.
So like, the vampirates are coming. We'll get our vampire army. It'll be like May. That's when that's gonna happen. Like March
Unless the
to
delay
May.
pushes it to like August.
No, I'm counting the delay, saying it to May. Because I'm originally guessing they would have been a month behind, and now saying,
April.
well, they'll be 2 weeks behind. Yeah. Or 2 months behind, sorry.
Yeah.
So basically, there's no AOS per se in January. Like, we'll get previews and stuff. Like, we'll get the articles and things like that of releasing up to Slaanesh, because Slaanesh should have been January, obviously, because we know that the coin is there, right? The Hedonites of Slaanesh coin. The coins that have been matched to the book, sort of releases, those kinds of things. And the new army releases, so that's what it is. Okay. Yeah. So, I couldn't believe how, by the way, I love how popular, I saw like polls going up on the Facebook groups, and like Vampirates was winning. And I'm like, guys, it's just Slaanesh. Like, look, I hope to be wrong. Like, it'd be awesome if I was wrong. And, like, we were getting all of Slaanesh and vampires and, like, back-to-back in a 2-month period. But think about how insane that sounds.
We are a hype machine.
Look, the hype is up to 11. I think there's going to be a riot if we don't get vampires.
Oh, my gosh. Like, it's on Reddit now. Like, it's everywhere. Like, Vampirates has bled into, like it's on the various Facebook groups. People are, like, repping it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
because it's real. It's happening. It's just not happening next. So like, it's okay. It's coming. We're gonna get there. Yes, that is Wonder Woman on Tom's Santa hat. That is correct.
It was that or Paw Patrol, and I went with the Wonder Woman.
That's the good choice. You made the right choice. So yes, my first airing of the grievances for the night is all this, like, it's gonna be vampires, yay, vampires. I'm like, whoa, slow down, guys. There's a whole nother army that they've said is coming next that has an associated coin that we've seen half the models for, that has no, that like obviously has a book.
Yeah.
The next thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'll try to be excited for Slaanesh.
Look, once we get a little glancy glance at that palanquin or whatever, which is what I'm hoping for as the Christmas Day reveal, like show me the centerpiece model and the book, and go, that's right, we rewrote Slaanesh, we detoxified it, it's still about heroes, but it's not going to be horrible, and you're going to have some fun units to play with as well. Wonderful. Great. Wait, what army is next? It's Slaanesh. That's Kevin Hamilton. It's Slaanesh. Anyway, that's what we all want to see. Just reveal the rest of the army. I'm excited. We're all excited. It's going to be excessive fun. I can't wait. How excited am I about Slaanesh? I am excited about Slaanesh. Okay, and we'll go from there.
I'm kind of excited.
So, at any rate, and then once that's out of the way, once we get to deep dive, just get all into that Slaanesh. Just get all pruny with that Slaanesh goodness. Because we're so deep in it. Then it's time to turn our eye toward Vampirates.
Well, I mean, that just gives me like 2 more months that I can spend money on Magic cards before Warhammer gets here.
Oh, jeez, Pete's. I mean, my greatest fear is that this vampire army is everything that we think it will be. Okay, that it's like a reintroduction of the classic vampires and introduces a new Mortarch with vampirate elements, and that I'm going to have like 2 armies in the first half of 2021 that I actually want to buy, which would be amazing because that'll actually be my first Death army in AOS.
You know, I had somebody ask me this, that I think I upheld my pledge almost 2 years in a row.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Because I didn't start any new armies this year.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't have happened probably if we had events, but yes.
Right. Like, maybe, because I probably would have played Fire Slayers or KO with how good they were. And so, like, I have an LRL box, but I'm not playing them. And
we have to wait till LRL 2 for you when they introduce the Swordmaster unit, and then you can't help yourself.
Right. That will probably be true.
If they bring in, like, a Swordmaster unit and some kind of heir to like the Swordmaster unit that we already know that is got to exist, right? Because we saw the one member of.
Right.
And they bring in some kind of heir to Lions in some kind of way, right? Not it wouldn't be just new white lions, but it would be like something like that.
You got a problem with my look here? Sorry, I have Amber like giving me the stare.
Oh, your wife is judging you? No, it's great. It's great.
I can't go into the freezer.
It's an A+ look, Tom. So, anyways, that's what'll bring you in fully to LRL. You won't be able to control yourself at that point. So there you
go. That's probably true.
Yes.
Hey, I'm being invaded by kids and okay. Yeah, right. You're cute. Okay, thank you. It's like 9:30. Go to bed.
No.
Good stuff.
I won't go to bed till Mom. Let's go upstairs.
Sorry, I'm
fine.
Again.
It's a Christmas episode. It's all about family, much like the Fast and Furious movies.
It's so true.
It's all about family. All right. So anyway, what's next, Tom? What else we got in the news? Oh, he's muting all the craziness ends.
So like Armies on Parade dropped and they were sweet.
They were sweet. There was such great looking armies. It was fantastic. I loved seeing it. Some really cool stuff. Did you see like Painted by G Graham? He did that awesome Halfling Blood Bowl team like in the picnic basket.
Yep.
That was fantastic. Like, it was so cool. I loved the box for it. I thought that was so amazing. Like, just a lot of stuff I really enjoyed. I loved seeing all those armies. It was great to see Armies on Parade. I was glad. Also want to shout out Bleep Bloop.
Bleep showed up.
He showed up with his beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Death army. And so I was happy to see him get recognized because that army is a labor of love. That is one of the greatest painted armies I've ever had the good fortune of judging. You know, it's one of the most beautiful armies I've seen. He's been working on it for God knows what, 3 years now, something like that, 3.5 probably.
He took 1,000 points of it to Adepticon 3 years ago.
I mean that's what I'm saying. He's been on it forever.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That was some skeletons and Manfred.
Absolutely. So, at any rate, He had his Blood Knights in that as well, Tom, by the way.
Oh,
Where he
were they in
actually
there?
used the
Oh,
original Blood Knights. Somebody
Oh,
mentioned
yeah,
that Blood
yeah,
Knight,
yeah.
the rumor engine today kind of looked like Blood Knights or something like that. Certainly could have been. Who knows? Wasn't
Yeah.
much to see. Like we called it last week that we thought there's going to be new Blood Knights. Like I said, I think there will be new Blood Knights. I stand behind that. If
Yeah,
there is
and the new
any
rumor
kit they know
engine.
they can remake
Yeah.
in plastic and sell a million of, it will be Blood Knights. I stand
Yep.
behind that call. I back that call.
And the rumor engine really does look like the Blood Knight, like armor slash.
Sure.
Yeah, I agreed.
Yep. Oh, there you go. Bleep's in the chat. Awesome. There you go. Hey, Bleep, what's up, buddy? Congratulations. And yes, if you ever get a chance to see his army, going to an event just to see his death army is honestly would be worth your price of admission. It's gorgeous.
It's outlandish.
I feel bad for you if you're trying to win a best painted against him. Congratulations on your now probably at best second place. So at any rate,
I remember that for the 1,000 point, and I was like, "Oh, I got this. I'm gonna." Oh, no,
yeah, sure.
no,
Yes.
Not getting anything today.
Yeah, I mean, there are just certain armies that are out there that I've judged that I'm like that are just a level above. That because I mean, judging
They're the equivalent of like display quality armies.
Yeah, I mean, I get to judge 2 out of the 3 biggest events in the U.S. every year, as well as one that's in the top 5 or whatever, right? Top 6, 7, 8, somewhere like that. It's a pretty big event. So I get to judge lots of events, and I get to see lots of armies, and I really love it. Like, just seeing people, I really, really, really love seeing people's armies in this game. I love seeing what other people paint. It's amazing. It's one of the best reasons to go to an event, is just to, like, take in everybody's armies. But there are some armies I come across that absolutely stick in my head because they are just a cut above. Like, there's something that is such a passion project, such a labor of love, and done with such talent and effort that they just stand out. And Bleeps is one of those. Oscar Lars's Nurgle army is another one of those, by the way. Another quite beautiful one. I honestly think our good buddy Martin Orlando and his new Lumineth is going to end up being one of those. I haven't had the pleasure to see it in person, but I think he's just the amount of time he's putting into it. I think he's really pushing himself and doing some great stuff. And I hope to see new armies that completely surprise me when the events start up next year. So there we go. All right. Yeah. Anything else in the news, Tom?
I don't think so. I mean, we had the short fiction thing that dropped for.
Oh, we did. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about it, Tom. It's actually a big deal.
Yep.
So the new piece of short fiction dropped for Rogan Realms. It only went to the email, so you have to be on the email list. They post them up a couple days later on the site, right? But I did read it, and so it features 3 Mega Gargants, like clearly an SOB force who have lost all of their little baby giants who work for them. So it's like 3 brother megas, and they're in a cave hiding. Okay. And whatever. Most of the story is completely uninteresting and irrelevant. Like literally, this whole story could have been one sentence. So here's what basic premise to ruin the story for everybody. It's not exciting. I promise you're not missing anything. They're like, one of them's like, do you hear weird thumping? And then the side of the cave while they're hiding and explodes because they're like licking wounds. And they talk about how much they hate fighting goldies and stuff like that. They're all beat up, right? And then a bunch of ogres come in, a bunch of undercuts. And they're all shooting them with little cannons. And there's a little skirmish where they're killing the ogres and stuff and blah, 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 blah. And so there's like a fight between the ogres and the 3 megas and yada, yada. They're trying to get to the cannons. And then all of a sudden the back door that they had just sealed up explodes. Like, these guys, just lots of door explosions, I guess. And they're like, what? And both forces turn to look, and it's like a bunch of Troggoths and giants who have this big giant ram, like little baby giants who have a big giant ram. And they've rammed a door down, and then a Maw Crusher lands, and a big orc steps out, and he's like, hey, you lot, you're all with me now. We're going to go beat up that human city. Let's go. Okay?
Sure.
And it's Gorgorak, the Fist of Gork. And, like, they talk about the sort of magical effect that happens when he's near them, to where, like, just, there's no more, none of them think for a moment about opposing him or fighting him.
Right.
Like, all of the ogres and all the giants, like, they feel better, they don't feel wounded, they're ready to fight. They're just like, yes, let's go. This guy's the chosen. Let's do this. Right? And so he's like, we're going to go beat up these Yumis. They deserve it. That's it. The whole story is just that thing we called when we did our Broken Realms preview, where I said book 2 was going to be a left turn, right?
Yeah.
Of being Gordorak beating down the doors of Excelsius or whatever.
Yep, and distracting the Stormcast from having a legitimate reprisal on Marathi.
Right, is like exactly what, like, that's what this story seemed
Sets up
to herald. Yes, exactly, because it was a completely pointless piece of narrative other than that, right? Like, there was no character being revealed, no interesting portion of the world. It was 3 giants in a tiny cave in literally anywhere. Mortal realms,
Yeah.
right? They don't even talk about what realm they're in. Right, and so it just seemed to be setting up like, yes, Gordrak will be the next book could be the next book or the next book after that. Like, we're setting up that we're going to get Broken Realms Gordrak, and he's going to smash the walls of Excelsius down. Yep, which is cool. That'll be an interesting story. Like, they're going to break realms, so makes sense. There you go.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I just hope that they don't have the story be like, the worst way this would play out is Gordrak plows through Excelsius, gets stopped before he, like, breaks into Aesir or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, weakens the door enough that, then Chaos can come in. Gordrak opened the door for the Chaos Force or whatever, right? And then there's, like, a war in Aesir because Gordrak was just a stupid pawn who was doing stupid destruction things and has no agency, right? Just whoops, the hurricane broke the levee, and, and that's it. Like,
chaos. Yeah.
Oh, chaos. Like, that's the worst version of this story. So let's hope we don't get that.
True.
Anyway. That was it. That's why I want to talk about the story, because it seemed to confirm, we had talked about that. I think they're going to left turn and do a destruction thing at some point in Broken Realms. I said probably the next book could be the one after that. This seemed to imply that that's correct. So,
yeah, no, I would agree with that.
I'll tell you what, IT said AOS 3 may be, like order versus destruction, since 1.0 was versus chaos and 2.0 was versus death. I would love that, because that would mean that they actually have more agency, right? It's not just like, they come up, they get defeated, and then the real threat comes in, right? That's the story I don't want. If it's like they break down Excelsius and now there's this ongoing thing and they end up being part of the new box set or the major player in AOS 3.0, that sounds great. Like, I'd be all about that. Then hopefully we could see some real agency in destruction. We've talked about that a lot. And yes, Gordrak is absolutely the Kool-Aid man. 100%. Oh, yeah. He's coming in. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
We're dorks.
And by the way, I agree with Nicholas Kirk that said no one should get into Aesir. It's like Terra being invaded. It's an end time scenario. I completely agree. Aesir should remain untouched, this non-realm. I know everybody wants to be like, bring in the grim dark, just like flagellate ourselves. But, like, how about we have a story with some hope in the mortal realms? Like, a little bit of hope. It's still dark times, right? Like, that would be great. Okay.
Yeah. Order has one realm.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Everything else is contested. Don't tell yourself any other thing.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, Death has full control of one realm. I don't think Chaos really contests Nagash's will in Shaiish, really. Like, yes, there are Chaos there, right? Sure, but it's just, invading Aesir is just a bad story. It's a boring story. It's a trite story. Like, having a story with, like, you can fight for it. You can have reasons why they're battling at the gate of it to keep people out, but there's a reason to keep a Rubicon in place, right? Yeah. Because, like, the concept of the Shining City on the hill is valid. Like, it's forming an important narrative purpose, and that's like it's a better and more compelling world if that's the case. If everywhere is just war, if everywhere is just fighting, if nowhere is special, if everywhere sucks, what are we fighting for? It's a bunch of garbage.
Right. Like, it's more interesting if they get, like, Order gets purged out of a realm.
Sure. Yeah. Like, that I'm fine with. Right. Well, like losing a city was huge to Marathi, right? Like, Anvilgard, that is a massive thing. Thousands and thousands of innocent people, of followers of Order were killed there, right?
Right.
Like, that's an interesting story. You can have stuff like that happen. Like, that's fine. But I don't want Stalingrad 1943 or whatever year that happened, right? That's not interesting. Yeah, I agree with Paul. The exceptions define the normal. I agree. Okay. Cool. So, anyways, that's probably for a separate. We could do a whole show on that. At any rate, so
like the narrative developments, do's and don'ts.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a great like how do we form this story the best? Yeah, I think that's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, Tom, let's do some pick of the week. Long news segment today. But that's all right. What do you got? Do you have anything you want to share with everybody?
I just had something.
Okay, well, you remember it while I'm telling mine. How about that? All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mine, I want to share a nice battle report from our friend Doom and Darkness. Just posted up today. Watched it earlier today. Great bat rep. There's a reason I'm specifically directing people to this battle report. Because I think it's often easy for us to get lost in the discussion of like, oh, this army's too powerful. I can't beat it. And like, okay, there are some armies that are out of bounds, and certainly things need to be reined in and stuff like that. But that's not a reason for all doom and gloom, ironically, given the channel. But the reality is, this is a game of ogres against like a mainly glutton list. Okay, like we are talking about no Stonehorns in this list, right? This is like a tyrant and a ton of gluttons and a few iron guts and a couple butchers in Blood Gullet, like, just body ogres going up against like a pretty solid Fire Slayers list, right? Is it the most perfectly finely tuned? No. Is it a very good list? Yes. It's a very good list with like 20 Hearthguard and all the buffs and all the right prayers in Hermdar with Lords of the Lodge, like all the BS is in play. And that's no offense, by the way, the guy who played it, the guy Frank who played it, seems like a super nice, very awesome guy. I just like Fire Slayers get under my skin in a way I cannot fully explain. They are my least favorite army in the game to play. I hate them with a fire of 1,000 suns.
It's why I just have to take them whenever I play with Vince.
Yeah, I understand. They're the worst. I mean, you're not alone. Obviously, I have another person in our group who comes over who plays Fire Slayer. So I've had the ill occasion to play them a lot. I play Tzeentch Change Host a lot too. You know what? Way more fun. That's the honest truth. It's way more fun playing Change Host than it is
because
playing Fire
you get to remove enemy models.
Correct.
You're you're a Timmy
die.
through.
There's actually like a game state change, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, things actually occur in the game.
Right. Where when I play, I mean, things occur when I play Fire Slayers. Like, you attack me, I have removed 2 models, then I attack. Well, actually, no, sorry.
I charge you. You attack,
me.
remove half my unit. I attack you, remove a model. You attack and remove the other half of the unit. Yeah,
it's
great.
Yeah,
it's a great game.
Yeah, that's it.
Who doesn't love that?
That's where I was going with it, and I didn't get there. Yeah. I mean, you killed a model or
480 for HGB in Winter FAQ, or we riot. Lose the Horde discount. Should have never been there to begin with.
No, I mean, if you do that, any footprint Fire Slayers have will disappear.
Good. 480. That's the point. I don't care. I don't care. There's plenty of other people who don't have footprints, Tom. There's plenty of other people who don't have footprints. Shut up. They're all angry too, and they want stuff. I'm not. I don't want to hear it. All right, next.
It's the only thing that makes them viable competitively.
Moving on. So at any rate, the point is, it's a great battle report because, and the reason I'm recommending it is because you get to see a really good, really well played game by both players. And it's sort of like the raw power of the Fire Slayers being brought against like Doom, who's absolutely playing his heart out. And I won't tell you how it ends. They're playing Blade's Edge. It's a great game. And like, it just shows you how much play matters, right? Not just like raw killing power. Okay, like we talk a lot in the game about raw killing power. Like, this unit will totally nuke that unit. It doesn't matter if that unit isn't fighting anybody. Right, a unit just standing there not in position isn't winning any games, right? So it was just a really good game. I thought it was like very well played AOS and a cool example. So with two cool looking forces. So there you go, linked in the description below. Tom, what's your pick?
Yeah, I remember what it was. So Tyler Mangle's blog, Mangle Miniatures, he did a masterclass tutorial on the Dread Pageant, so of the new Slaanesh models, and I just loved his purples in there. Like, like I didn't necessarily agree with all the compositional decisions between like with the pink, but the purples and the pinks looked great.
They are the best colors.
They are.
So there you go. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great call, a great shout out. Tyler is an awesome, awesome painter, and his like all the various little tutorials and everything he puts out are fantastic. I don't mean little in any diminutive way. I just mean like he tends to write succinctly, which is what's awesome.
Yeah.
Like he's great at doing like literally a little tutorial that is highly packed with information. So there you go. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's great, and I love the darker skin. Like if I do Slaanesh, I would do a darker skin tone, like a Middle Eastern slash even maybe like an African skin tone with purples and golds. Like I think it would just be hot.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it'd be good.
I agree. All right. Well, let's move on to some hobby time, shall we? Okay, so hobby time. Tom, what have you been working on this week? Anything interesting here in your Christmas time?
Nope.
I do like that you looked around to think about it for a minute. That's nice.
Yeah, like because like I've been doing a lot of like we have some of her family coming in, and so we've been on like major project mode in the house.
Sure.
And so like I've been you can't tell, but I've been actually like cleaning my space and like doing some major reorg stuff. And so that's why I was like checking.
Gotcha.
Because I was trying to think like what else other than cleaning have I done, and have I actually fit in any painting in the middle of that? And
gotcha. Okay, fair enough. For myself, I have been. I'm working on this big boy right here. So this is my. I had gotten an additional mega for my birthday, and so this is him converted up. This is going to be the one who's wielding the incandescent rage blade, which if you watched when I did a Sons of Behemoth show last week with AOS Coach, which if you haven't watched that yet, go check it out. I talked about how I think giving the Gatebreaker the incandescent rage blade is the right answer, the right play. So this is going to be my guy with the incandescent rage blade, which I can see no problems or issues ever with converting a model to have a realm artifact on him. It's never gone wrong for me before, ever, and I don't expect it to go wrong here.
Checks out.
Yeah.
I love his feet, by the way.
Oh, thank you. He has the knight feet, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got Imperial Knight metal feet, and obviously like that, his right arm is metal. And then I guess...
As Brian said in the chat, he's Timmy Titanfoot.
Yes, indeed, Timmy Titanfoot. Yes, and I guess he has like I was trying to think about what to do with the. I wanted to use the Gatebreaker hood, but I didn't want to use the Gatebreaker face. And I was like, well, with a hood like that, you're inevitably just going to end up dark, like Adeptus Mechanicus or Dark Mechanicum. Like it's just the end of every road. Everything evolves into crabs, and everything eventually becomes Dark Mechanicum. So
sure.
Just shoved a bunch of tubes up there. Getting him to have eyeballs, like I don't think you're gonna be able to see. Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it.
Yeah,
see how he has like eyes?
Yeah.
That was actually a really interesting challenge because that's all just negative space in his head. Like he just has a big empty head. There's nothing in there because I didn't slide the face up in. So I was sitting there like, well, what am I gonna do? Do I want to just leave those
black
and empty? I was like, it feels like there should be something in there so I can paint it and put pinpricks of light on. And I was looking down at my desk after I had clipped out all the bits. And the Mega Gargant kit comes with 2 arrows. Like, the old giant came with a bunch of arrows, like a ton of arrows that you could, like, stick into their flesh. You're supposed to, like, cut off the top of it and, like, stick it into their flesh or something. The Mega kit comes with, like, 2. I don't know why it only comes with 2, but it does. And I was sitting there looking at them, and I was like, I wonder... And then, so I just, cut the very back of them off and then got a pair of pliers and just, put a little bit of sprue glue on the back and just literally, stuck it straight down into his eye hole and held it there and then let go. And now there's, a rod that's actually attached to the back of his head. But just, and then but he literally looked like he had arrows sticking out the front of it. And I just came back in once I had him attached and cut him. So it was nice. It was a funny little,
opportunity.
It was a funny little opportunity. Monkey Man says, will there be a hobby cheating on stitched skin? There is. It's already up. It's like hobby cheating 4 or 5 or 6 ago. So go check out the recent ones. Yes, I have a stitched skin tutorial. So there you go. All right. Cool. All right. So with that, let's turn into our topic tonight, shall we, Tom?
Sure.
Okay. We'll just move that over at the 40 mark while I change our other items up here. There we go. Bring up the Spider Riders. Okay. So let's talk about the Naughtiest Warscrolls in AOS. So here's the idea. Here's the premise for tonight's show, stretched as thin as I could stretch this. The basic concept is this. Which I've got our first scroll we'll talk about up on the screen, Tom, which is one of yours, I believe.
Yep.
Here's the idea of the thing. Tom and I went on a journey today. A journey, I tell you. Okay.
Well, this kind of started last week, right?
Yeah.
Because I was bitching so hard about
Spider Riders, and just that the base stuff, the base clay you're working with, the foundation is sand, right?
Right.
Then I realized it was Festivus that was today as well, and that an important part of that is the airing of the grievances, right? And then I thought about the naughty and nice thing, and this all came together. So then Tom and I went on the journey today of finding that what we think are the 10, maybe 11, but whatever. There's a couple other close ones. Worst War Scrolls in AOS. Okay? So there are 3 things that can make you a worst War Scroll. The more of them you have and the more strongly you have them, the worse you are. So these aren't any particular order when we go through them. Like, I'm not saying we're not here to crown a champion of like the absolute worst War Scroll, right? But we are going to air grievances with these 10 scrolls and then figure out how we make them nice.
Yep.
So we're gonna rewrite their rules. Now, here's your 3 criteria that I think we used to get here, right? And yes, I could have done like a super clicky, the top 10 worst War Scrolls in AOS. Could have done that. Didn't do that. I'm not about that life. At any rate.
No, this is the Christmas special.
It's the Christmas special. It's more fun to do a naughty and nice thing and whatever. And this is the kind of thing we like to do. Weird titles. Okay. 1. It basically never shows up in lists. Okay? Like, especially...
It has no presence in lists of that army.
Yes. Outside of people who have a very strong passion for a thing, right? Yep. And are only playing it narratively or so on and so forth, right? So it's largely completely absent from competitive lists. Largely, as near as we can tell. 2, there aren't points that would really make it viable that it would ever reasonably be placed at. Right? So in other words, like, we could point Alariel at 0 points. By the way, Alariel's not one of the 10 worst. She's a bad scroll. She's not one of the 10 worst, right? Like, okay, we can put Alariel at 0 points. Like, I get you, Rob. That's very funny. But, like, that's obviously never going to happen, right? You're never going to put Alariel at, like, 150 points. Or something. Like, right? You're never going to have, like, a Sigor...
Like, nobody's going to put her at 300.
Right. You're never going to put a Sigor at 30 points. Or something like that. Right. You know what I mean? Like, these are unrealistic values, which is kind of what they would have to be at to actually be viable, and that would just cause this drain circling thing that's never going to happen, right?
Right.
Okay. Right. So there's basically the Venn diagram of like points where they would be valid choices and points where that GW would actually assign do not overlap, right? That being the main point there. Okay.
Right.
All right. And then point the third, okay, is that their overall rules are just bad in a way that they don't actively fill any role that we can tell, right? Like there's some scrolls that just don't seem to actually do anything, anything other than exist, right?
Right.
Now,
like they fill no role well.
Right. Absolutely.
They can't be engineered in such a way as to fill a role.
Right. Now, each of these War Scrolls has those things, each of these 3 things, in some degree or another, right? But, like, some lean much more heavily on other aspects than others. And
I love how, like, everybody, like if you watch the scrolling chat, like all the various gems of a lot of our list.
I know, yeah. People are already starting to put in them gems. Now, here's the thing, folks. You're going to disagree with us. That's fine. Okay, we're going to defend our picks. You have your own. That's okay. Here's the great challenge. The challenge was to limit it to 10. Like, if this was just let's name a bunch of bad War Scrolls, sure, I could pick 50, like, bad War Scrolls. In a game of, like, I don't know how many there are, 1,000, 1,200 War Scrolls, like something crazy, right? Okay.
Right.
And so the challenge was, can you find stuff that's, like, a cut above bad to straight terrible? Right? There's a real difference between bad
because
and
most bad still fill a role, like even if that role is just chaff.
Right. Oh, thank you very much, Cameron Thompson. No, Legacy War Scrolls not included. So this is worst of the non-Legacy War Scrolls or Legends. Sorry, non-Legends War Scrolls.
These are the worst of the War Scrolls that are still in print, that somebody within the last year or two actually touched and pushed to a printer.
Yeah, like non-Legends War Scrolls.
Right.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Cameron. That was an important caveat because, like, obviously a lot of bad stuff has been shuffled off to Legends, but there's no fun in that, right? Like just going and shooting fish in a barrel that is like old Legends War Scrolls that haven't been touched for a long time, right? So, same thing. By the way,
had design work done and play testing done in the last couple of years.
Yeah, for the same reason I left out all of the Forge World, like Monstrous Arcanum scrolls, even if some of them are still technically valid, because I just don't know what those are or what those purpose are in the game or who's updating them. So we just kind of like left the Forge World Monstrous Arcanum stuff out. Like I'm not worried about like mirror worms and these kinds of things because I don't even know what I'm not. I off the top of my head I wouldn't even know what's still legal there and what's not. Like what's still valid in an army and what's not. I wasn't, and they're just not part of the game. Like they're just not. They're a funny little thing, right?
Yep.
Okay. So there you go. These are kind of the rules. Like yes, correct. I wouldn't. So like Bone Grinder, but by the way, the Bone Grinder wouldn't be in my bottom 10 anyways. I don't know if he'd be in my bottom 40, right? Limit, like every time we had a big discussion, Tom and I, with a bunch of other people today around this, as people were throwing around ideas. Like we workshopped this some, and. One of the interesting things about this was like, there's a lot of different suggestions about these scrolls, and I would always say, okay, yes, that's bad. Like, no disagreement. By not making this list, we're not saying you're good, right? Like, there are tons of bad scrolls not on this list. The question is, when you look at something, right, you go, okay, but is that worse than X? And you go, oh God, no, it's not, right? That's the thing you have to keep challenging yourself with. And I disagree with I already know one of Tom's picks, but that's all right. We'll keep going.
Right.
And you're all
like
I
have
with
one,
ours.
Like my number 5. I was like, I think my last one's this, and he's like, what? No way. And I was like, no, I think it's on there. Yeah. So we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. All right. But Tom, start us off. Spider Riders. You've picked it as one of the bottom 10 War Scrolls in the game. Yeah. And here's the thing. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think this is actually a very, very bad War Scroll. But walk us through it, Tom.
Okay. So let's talk about so right now they are 5 models for 100 points.
Yeah.
They're each they're on cav bases, 2 wounds each on a 5+ save. Okay?
Yep.
So they let's talk about their special rules. I'll go through the rules and then I'll go. Well, actually, let me do the profiles first. Okay. So all the riders have bows. Each of these bows have 2 shots at 16 inches, hitting on 5s, wounding on 5s, 1 damage.
Yep. That's right. Yes, correct. A unit of them does an average of less than 1 damage with their shooting. I mathed all these scrolls out, by the way. The literal average is less than 1 damage. They have about an 80% chance to deal 1 or 0 damage. Continue.
Right. Okay, for 100 points.
Yeah.
So then they get into melee, and the goblins have crooked spears with a 2-inch reach, 1 attack each, hitting on 5s, wounding on 4s, no rend, 1 damage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the fangs, the bites, are 1-inch reach, 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, and on hitting or no rend 1 damage. Every 6 on those bites, by the way, does a mortal wound. And so you look at that and go, there it is. There's the magic, because they have these special rules that let them actually
do that on 5s if they're under the light of the bad moon.
And so you're like, okay, they're going to spit out mortal wounds. Well, they're not, okay, because that attack that ability is on the spider fangs, which are a 1-inch reach on a cav base.
Yep.
Okay.
It should also be noted that other than like the spider, literally the white dwarf that just got printed that lets you call the bad moon, basically, right?
Yep.
You all the other synergistic buffs that happen with like the loon boss or whatever he is on the spider boss.
Like you could have the spider
fangs.
Boss. Yeah, they do. Yeah, the spider boss with the item. So you can run around with the spider boss.
Give him the item. Yes, I'm saying his basic command ability.
Oh yeah, none of the command ability. Like the Arachnarok could cast a spell and increase the damage on those bites.
That is true.
And the spider boss could run around and let him bite on 5s. But again, it's only on the spider fangs, which is a 1-inch reach on a cav base.
Right.
But all that's just bad. But let's just talk about the fact that, like, you know how like units get like drummers and like totem bearers and all that?
Yeah.
All of those abilities are only like, you only get those models if you don't take minimum size units.
Right, because it's got to be 1 in 10.
So you don't even get a drummer until you've spent 200 points on this unit.
Yeah.
You don't get a banner bearer on this bravery 4 unit of spider riders.
Correct. Which just pushes them to bravery 6. Yes, to like average bravery.
And now you have 10 of them. So you have enough to actually flee from Battle Shock.
Right. Like, because if you lose 1, then you're rolling. Every 1 you lose, you're just rolling how many you lose, right? At that point.
Right. Yes. And so the problem is they don't actually do anything. They don't do anything on the battlefield. They don't, like... So here's the problem. You can't push them down to 80 points because it's just not, like, it's not really reasonable. Because at that point, you're getting into just the raw meat zone. Like 10 wounds for 80 points. And then they actually have some usable abilities. And so you really don't have a lot of wiggle room at 100 points.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the synergy for this army is just simply not there, particularly the army synergy with the bad moon. And so they just really struggles. And so
can I talk about something real quick here? A lot of the sort of natural synergies with this army are about running and shooting with the bows. Okay.
Yeah.
Like just a lot of the sort of natural synergy type stuff. This falls into this weird category, which we're going to see some more models of later on in this worst list, right? Where they clearly had 2 different... It's almost like they had 2 different people write these units, where somebody thought the unit was all about being a skirmishy shooting unit, and somebody thought the unit was all about being a melee chargey unit. And they just didn't talk with each other, and they both wrote half the scroll or half the synergies, and then married the whole thing together, right?
Right.
Because that's really what this feels like. Because their bows are straight terrible. By the way, they're called spider bows. In the description, it talks about poisoned arrows, and yet, they are not poisoned in any way.
Yeah, I just... Like, and if people are saying, well, they're chaff, but they're not good chaff. For that same point, you can get the squig hoppers, okay, that are 4+ armor and do mortals on a charge.
Right.
For the same points. Or you can get the cheaper hoppers that move 3d6.
Yeah. And
so, like, they're not even good chaff because they don't do what you need them to do. And their shooting doesn't actually do anything.
Nick Stockton said they are poison to lists.
Yeah. So, like, it struggles. It fails on all points, right? Yep. They don't compete with anything else in this army, and they don't serve a function. Okay. Yep. So are you ready for my solution?
I'm ready. So now let's make it nice. Fix the scroll for me, Tom.
2 abilities.
I'm ready.
Okay. I'm not going to do what you proposed. I remember you saying, well, maybe looking at a 4+ save would be a solution to this.
Sure.
I'm not going to do that. I'm leave them on 5s. I want them to be these crazy gobos. Okay.
Right on.
Like bone-clad, unarmored gobos. They're 5+ cav. I'm okay with that. That's fine. So I'm going to make 3 changes. I'm going to add 2 abilities.
Okay.
And I'm going to all of the totem stuff just goes to 5 models.
1 in every 5. Sure.
You're 1 in every 5 because that's what every other cab unit does.
Sure.
There's not another cab unit that requires double taking. Okay.
Yep.
So that's the first thing. The second is that I'm going to say for defenses, instead of giving them the 4+, units in melee take -1 to hit.
Okay. Because they have like webs they're pooping on the enemy or whatever.
Right. They're riding spiders that are pooping webs.
Yep. Okay. I have no pushback on that. It makes sense.
Okay. And then you go one of 2 ways with the next thing.
Okay.
Okay. Either you give them envenomed weapons, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
All the weapons
Yep.
gain the spider venom.
Which, by the way, makes complete sense. Like, the spider fangs are dripping with... Right now, quick aside, Tom. Right now, in my current D&D game, I'm playing a grung. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a little frog. Okay? And they're adorable and awesome.
Yep.
And you're constantly coated in poison as a grung. Like, you literally seep poison from your body. Okay?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And one of the things you can just do is just poison your weapons by going...
Yep.
And now that's a poison weapon. Right? Like, you can just wipe it. And that's it. Like, that's just an ability you have as a grung. You can just poison your weapons. These dudes have poison. It's there. It's on the fangs. You'd think they just, like, touch the spear down on the fangs a little bit. Be like, hey, thing that I am in charge of, drip some goo on this. Thank you. Okay, great.
Yep.
Ha! Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah.
So it just makes sense.
And yes, and it actually matches the narrative fluff that's supposed to, like, give you the entire heart of the unit.
You mean the fluff that's currently written at the top of the scroll that we're all reading?
Yes, that says they have poisoned weapons.
Right.
Yes. Poisoned arrows and jabbing. Okay. So, and then the other thing that I would do, or I would consider, like, those are aggressive changes. This is also aggressive. The other thing that I would consider is make it so that because of their webbing, units engaged within 3 inches can't retreat.
Oh, that'd be a fun one. That's interesting.
So suddenly it becomes a tech piece.
Sure. Because you can try to pin on the corner and keep people from retreating. Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. And so there you go. 100 points for that type of chaff, kind of utility, have the chance for mortal wounds, and then you actually have a function on the battlefield.
Yeah. And then, like, you could go around and fish for 6s and just kind of skirmish with all the existing run abilities, right? And, you know, like, you're just fishing for 6s to get little mortals. Because, again, their bows, I cannot stress this enough, do not do damage. Like, I know they have attacks. Mathematically, a unit of the 5 of these attacking does, like, 0.6 damage. It's not real. That's not damage. Right. You're going to hear that a lot in things we talk about, where I'm just like, mathematically, you missed. Do damage.
Yes. Right. You don't do anything with... You roll dice, but you don't actually generate damage.
Right.
And so... And I don't think that it would make it too over the top. They would still not be good in combat. You know, there's like this, by the way, doesn't resolve the, like, I want to play a spider army and I want to run bricks of these.
Sure.
Because they're still bad in bricks, because you need the 2-inch reach for the bite. But what it would give you is the bows and the spears, which both have longer reach. So that even if the fangs, you're not getting most of your bites there, you're still getting the mortals, you know, from like the back.
I like it. Look, it feels like it should run as a more MSU build of an army, right? It doesn't feel like they're marching out with giant bricks of cav. That's not right. But at the same time, you could try the big tar pit of just like, here's 20 of them, you can't kill all
60
of them,
wounds,
and I'll just, you know.
Yes. Right.
And you can't
because right now they're the max of a block of 30.
Yeah, I mean,
which
is yeah, that's whatever. It's kind of crazy. But, like, I honestly like the scroll you built. I mean, they probably get priced at, like, 100, 120. They're already 100 right now. Maybe they go to 120 with that ability, something like that. Maybe. I don't know. But that's fine. It seems fine. Like, again,
Like,
they're
have a
so
utility
still
role.
weak and glass cannon-y, right? Like, these guys will still die in droves if anything shoots at them even remotely, right?
And they'll run away when they do, because you just have
Yeah,
to kill
because their
one.
bravery is still Garbo as well, by the by, right? Like, we haven't fixed
Yeah,
that
I'm
problem,
not
and I don't think we
I-
should, right?
Yep.
So no, that feels right. I like that. I like that fix a lot,
Yeah.
Tom. I think that would make
that's-
them a nice scroll.
Right. It would make me look at them and go, oh, I could do some fun things with this.
Yeah, like it'd have a couple different ways it could be played. It'd give them some interesting tech, some interesting utility, and a little bit of offense. Perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds like a nice scroll to me. Awesome. Okay.
By the way,
Uh-huh.
Doom. I don't know if you've been following the
I
comments.
have.
He was like,
I followed the journey
I'm
you've been
gonna
on.
defend. Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna defend them, and then we walk through all of it, and he's like, man, these things are trash. I can't defend them.
They are so bad. It's really shocking. Okay.
So bad.
All right. Let's go to so I'm going to do a scroll next here, Tom.
Yep. Please do.
He's been up and hidden because I had to readjust this size. Because, by the way, downloading these things, and so just so everybody knows, yes, all of these scrolls are free. I'm not sharing anything that's not public-facing information in case people aren't aware. Like, all of these are free downloads from the site. I literally went and grabbed all the PDFs directly from GW's website in the public-facing document. Which the problem with that is some of these are like really, really goofily laid out. So some of them will start small and I'll have to adjust them. I adjusted this one.
Yep.
All right. Next up is our boy, the Charybdis. The Charybdis. Okay. The Charybdis is real bad. I want to start there. I do think he absolutely fits as one of the 10 worst scrolls in the game.
Wow.
Okay.
Bold statement.
Yeah, I understand.
Go on.
Okay. Let's talk about why this guy is so bad. All right. So the Charybdis, I mean, you can look at the scroll. You can see what's going on here. I'm not telling you anything you probably don't know. So this guy's one model. Counts as one thing. He has so first of all, he has all the standard monster, not a hero problems we've talked about in the past, right?
Yep.
Counts as one dude, big base, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff, right? Bad wounds to points ratio, all of that is in play here, right? He has poor board control, etc.
Yep.
He's got 12 wounds on a 4-up save for 170 points. Again, no universe where this is worth it, especially when you look at his damage profile. Unwounded, this guy's Fang Tentacles are 6 attacks on 4s and 3s, neg 1 rend, 2 damage. And that's the best attack he's got going for him, and it ain't that good. Okay? The tail is even worse because it's random. Yes, it can wound on 2s when you're unwounded. No rend 1 damage. Who cares? A random number of attacks with no rend and 1 damage. And then the limbs are 3s and 3s with like 1 rend, yay, but still 1 damage. And then you got the 2 stupid goads and whips. This guy does almost no damage. Okay, almost none.
Like if you math this out, he's hanging out with the Spider Raiders.
Yeah, he's not that bad, but yes, he's pretty bad. He hits for about an average. Assuming he's unwounded, he does about 3 to 5 damage. Okay, that's where his damage falls.
He did not come in like a wrecking ball.
No, and his wound chart is abysmal. Let's direct out your eyes to the wound chart. Where does he chart? His 0 to 1. 1 wound. He can take 1 wound without diminishing his profile. Goes to 2 wounds. You immediately lose effectiveness. Just like that. It's shocking how bad this guy's wound chart is.
Well, you can get a mount trait.
You can give him a mount trait. And I'll tell you, it almost kept him off the list. Almost. Okay? Because
That's
of
fair.
the Anvil Guard mount trait that gives him Burning Blood where he can kick back mortals.
Yep.
Almost kept him off the list. I went back and forth on this guy so hard. Okay? But in the end, the fact that this dude has no ranged threat, does almost no damage when he gets there, and by the way, moves 7 inches. 7. His speed is 7 as a big, giant, non-flying monster.
Woo!
Wow. 7, huh? That's what we're going with. 7
he's
inches.
part of the pirate elf faction.
He is a Scourge Privateer.
So you can get +1 to attacks. Like the hero can give +1 to the entire profile, like all the way down the line.
Well, hot you do. Let's talk about this guy's worthless abilities because they're funny too. I have to slide over for this. That's right, left to right scrolling because that makes sense. He subtracts 1 bravery from enemy units. Okay,
I like that. Like,
sure, like a million models do that. It's fine. It's not bad. It's just nothing to write home about. If he's slain any models, he can heal D3 wounds. I don't mind combat phase healing. It's okay. That would assume he's still alive, which seems highly unlikely. And quick with the lash.
Or he's not attacking anything that matters.
Yeah, quick with the lash, an actually decent ability that still had to have some kind of negative to it. Whereas before you make the charge roll, you can roll 3d6 and then drop the lowest. Like, of course, because he couldn't just get 3d6 charging like a good version of this rule. No, it has to be 3d6 drop the lowest. It's still just a max of 12. He can't declare a charge at a longer distance or anything. And if you roll a triple, which admittedly is not common, it's not as bad as the giant double rule. But if you roll a triple, he just suffers a mortal wound and can't charge. Yeah, we had to tamp down on this power by having a negative effect. Like, are you for real with that last sentence? Why?
No, it should be if he rolls a triple, you like do 10 mortals or something.
You just do more because that's cool. That's awesome. Way to go, man. Like, jeez, Pete. Everything about this is wrong. Like, except for the Feast of Bones. That's the only ability that makes sense because he can people and heal.
I don't hate him. And like I don't know if he deserves to be on this list.
Wow.
I mean, he's bad.
He is.
But because of the synergies that can come to bear on him, I don't know that he's that bad.
Yeah, I mean, here's my problem with him, Tom. The fact that he's got everything monster going against him. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, so we're starting there, right?
Yep.
This is... He's one model. He has poor board control. He sucks at controlling objectives, right? So, as we established in the Fixing Monsters show, you either have to be worth it for offense, pound for pound, or you have to be bringing utility to the table. This guy does neither in a way that most other monsters even fail at. His damage is pitiful. His movement is ungodly bad, right? Like, if this guy even gets minorly wounded, he's moving 5 inches. He's Stormcast slow.
Yeah.
Okay? And by the way, his damage is now effectively like 2. Like, literally 2 is what he's going to do at that point. Get out of here.
Yep.
Okay? Like, it's just bad. He's the worst of a worst cohort, right? And that's why I think he's one of these 10. Now, I submit to you he's naughty. Okay. And he is such a great model. A lot of these, by the way, are tragic because I think the models are cool. Most of these models are actually cool. Like the Spider Riders are actually really cool models. This Charybdis is a super cool model. I actually love the Charybdis. I think he looks cool in the War Hydra because the weird sucky heads I think look awesome. Okay, how do we fix this guy? Well, here's step number 1. We're gonna fix his wound chart to bring him in line to the current standard of wound charts, monster wound charts, right? Like his wound chart's going to be 0 to 6. He's at the top level or something like that, and then go down from there. Okay.
Right.
I mean, don't even get me started on that freaking turtle. All right, and how it has to suffer like 2/3 of its wounds or half its wounds or whatever before it even diminishes at all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna fix his wound chart. That's number 1. So he can actually take some damage and still be good. Number 2. This guy's going to count as 3 models. I know that's not a huge deal, but it's a thing we're going to do because there's actually 2 other guys on the back of him. Okay? Like, the whole reason he's got cruel goads and whips is because there's literally 2 dark elves following him around. There are 3 beings, in fact, here in this model. So he's going to count as 3 dudes. Okay? For taking objectives. Yep. Doesn't fix him. It's a long way off, but at least he's better than 1 ogre. Okay?
Yep.
All right, but now let's get to the stuff that really matters, okay? Which is, I don't hate the idea, okay, that we have a slow-moving monster. All right, like, okay, he's not that fast because he's got to be whipped and goaded and stuff like that into place. I'm all right with that. Like, let's just go with that premise, okay?
Right.
And I want to keep him costing roughly the same amount of points.
Right. The key is when he makes contact, it needs to be meaningful.
Correct. Exactly. Yep. So that you have a reasonable bully, because a valid role to play as a 170 to 200 point monster, because that's where I'd want to keep him at, right? Is something your opponent can't ignore, right? If they're forced to go push melee troops toward him to fight him or to go charge him so they can kill him before he can kill them or something, or direct shooting at him, that's great. That's a distraction carnifex, right? Like, that's a role. There's a purpose to that thing in an army, right? And so like that can be valid. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to take those fanged tentacles, okay? We can keep the same attack profile of like 654 3-2, but keep in mind we fixed the wound chart, remember? So like he's going to hold 6 a lot longer. Okay.
Yep.
And his 2-hit is going to go to 3, his 2-wound is going to go to 2, his rend is going to go to 3, and his damage is going to go to 3. Okay? Like, that's what we're all about here, right? We're all about the big giant sucky heads, and they'll do a lot of damage, right? Now, if you wound him, that scariest profile diminishes. But again, you've got to actually pour significant effort into him, because I'm suggesting he doesn't go down until 6 wounds, right? And then we take the other attacks of him, which is the spiked tail and the clawed limbs. We basically keep them the same, but they both go to rend neg 1, 2 damage, because he's a monster and all monsters should always hit for at least 2 damage, right? So they're still the same thing. Still 2 limbs. He's got 2 arms. Rawr, got it. Cool. 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, neg 1, 2 damage. And his spike tail is d6 at 4s and 2, 3, whatever. Neg 1 rend, 2 damage. And then, sure, the little goads and whips are like, goblins on the back of a giant spider. It's fine, right? We keep him so he's still not defensive. Like, I'm not upping his defense at all. He can still only heal in combat. He's still slow, but that's now, like, that turns his average damage up into, in the 10s-ish range, right? It'll put him up in, like, the 10 to 15-ish damage is what he'll hit for. And, like, the idea there would be, okay, cool, that's a thing I can't ignore, right? Like, it's a valid threat that I have to pay attention to. And there you go. Like, that's a scary monster. He's not defensive. He's not fast. Can't fly. Right? He's got to walk his happy butt across the board, right, and do the work. But if he gets there, or you use him smartly, cool. Then he's a good piece.
Sure.
There you go. All right. Right on. That makes him nice to me. Right? Because I think Distraction Carnifex is a valid role, especially in a city's army. Like, having a big, weird monster that you can't ignore is actually quite useful, because you want to protect your infantry blocks, right? You want to have them be able to move out, get in position, set up, do the things you want to do. And so if you've got this big piece that's kind of just out there roaming as a solo operator, right, that the enemy has to pay attention to, that takes the pressure off your main blocks. So, okay, cool. Tom, let's go to one of yours. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Let's do... hate that I have to put this thing away. Beasts O Nurgle, my friend. This one was yours.
Yeah.
And boy, does it earn its place. I completely agree with you. So walk us through the Beasts O Nurgle, Tom.
I'm pulling it up on my computer as well so I can zoom in.
Yeah.
So the Beast of Nurgle is a single model at, like, I don't know, 80 points is, I think, what they're last at. Something like that. I don't think they've dropped from that.
Are you asking how expensive these are? He is 70 points.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's 70. Guess what? Still not worth it. So the Beast of Nurgle is a 7-wound single model on a 5-up save with a 5-up after save. Watch out now. He has a movement of 5. He has a a D6 claw tentacle attacks. Let me say that again. He has a D6 attacks that are this claw and tentacle profile that are 4s and 3s, no rend, 1 damage. So on average, you'll get 3 to 3.5, 3 to 4 attacks and do functionally no damage. And then you get a 2-inch reach slobbering tongue, one of these on 3s and 3s, D3 damage, no rend. So that slobbering tongue is worse than the mage staff bop because there's no rend.
Yes. Again, this guy does almost no damage.
Like statistically.
Yes.
I
would just like to remind everybody that skinks are like 60 points. Okay, continue, Tom.
They are.
It's not for any reason. I just felt like randomly pointing that out at this point in time. But yes, please continue.
So this guy, though, he has an ability that you can roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of this unit. If you make a retreat move on a 4+, that enemy unit suffers a D3 mortal wounds. That means, on average, he is doing more mortal wounds by running away than he would if he punched somebody in the face, if he stayed in combat.
Which he has to actually survive to be able to do that move.
Right. He can retreat and charge, or he can charge if he ran or retreated, which is neat. Like, I don't want to minimize that. And he has the Locus of Virulence, which means he adds 1 damage to his weapon, profiles if he's within 7 inches of a Nurgle demon hero. Which, okay. He goes to 2 damage if he's near a hero on a D6 attacks.
By the way, just when I say this guy does no damage, I think sometimes people don't understand what I'm saying when I say that. So I'm going to make this very mathematically real for everybody. Okay? Here we go.
Yep.
Against a 4-up save, this guy has a 43% chance of doing 0 damage. He has a 30% chance of doing 1 damage. And a 14% chance of doing 2. Meaning, you have higher than a 7 in 10 chance to do 1 or 0 damage when this guy attacks. That's the real numbers. Okay? So,
for 70 points.
Yes. When we say these things do no damage, we're not being facetious. The statistical likelihood is literally no damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a coin flip of no damage.
Yes. That's right.
Right. As opposed to a coin flip for a D3 mortals to run away. And he's not really survivable. So here's the deal. Like, he's not doing anything. Ultimately, the real, and he's not really nice looking either. He has, 2 swappable pieces, but he's monopose. And he's, $35 for a single model or something ridiculous. So, it's just the worst. And what's most egregious on this War Scroll is that he doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah. This guy's the king of, not filling a role.
Yeah, because he can't do damage. He's not survivable. He can't cap or hold objectives. He's not a hero. I don't know what he's doing.
Right.
And so the problem is that, and all of the battalions and everything, trust me, I've tried to make this dude work. To run, 3 of them as a screen, and it's just not viable. It's amazing how bad he simply is when you could just take other things in Nurgle that are super 10 times more effective.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
To do similar things much, much, much better. Okay. So on top of that, let's read the description, because I always like to go to the descriptions. To me, they are they are our guiding light. They're our North Star to tell us what these guys should be doing. They are as stupid as they are enthusiastic. Beasts of Nurgle are bound into battle with burbling bellows of joy, huge slug-like abominations with fanged maws and diseased tentacles. Their flabby bodies exude a paralytic slime that renders their victims helpless. Did you know they have a paralytic slime?
Wouldn't have known it from the rules.
The beasts of Nurgle gleefully rip and crush their lackluster playmates until their joy proves lethal before bounding off in search of new victims.
They die very, very slowly, apparently. It's like the Sarlacc pit. It's like 1,000 years for them to get through a single human.
Right. So, what should these guys be doing? When I read that description, like the paralytic slime grabs my attention. And rendering victims helpless. Nobody likes to be helpless. I get that. And so if you want to keep these guys at a similar point cost, here's a simple way to do this. They should have, at the start of combat, units within 3 inches, you roll a dice on a 4-up. That unit cannot move until until the start of your next hero phase or something. Okay.
So they can't pile in or retreat or anything.
So they can't pile in, right? And the key is they can't pile in, they can't retreat. So they are locked in combat with this stupid Nurgly beast. And if this guy just like hit on an end where there's like one model engaging him, that unit is going to do nothing for a very long time.
Sure.
And so it's going to do what you're saying it does.
What the description said, yes.
Yeah, and then if you actually like, and so it's not a problem that they don't do damage, because they don't need to do damage, right? They're paralyzing, and they're just like mauling on the enemy and taking 10 years, and that's okay.
Right.
Everybody wants them to do more damage. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But ultimately, they need to stop the enemy from doing things. That's what their function is. And if you do that, they suddenly become a very like really scary tool in your toolbox.
Yeah, because there's no reasonable level we're going to point these guys at where they actually do enough damage to justify their existence. There's just other things in Nurgle will take to do damage, right?
Right.
That's not what these guys are going to be. If they're going to have a purpose, if these kind of weird, cheap singlets are going to have a purpose, especially as slow as this guy is, then it has to have like some kind of cool, extreme utility, right?
Right. So that would be something like that. Or you could like split it up where you could tie part of that to the acidic slime trail. And you could tie part of that to like, you could also say that you like, maybe you can never retreat from them.
Sure.
Okay. And you can't even move at all on a 4-up or something like that.
Right.
But that's the point, is that like they need to be this unusual tech utility piece in order to serve a function in the army.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing damage, and you really can't point them to do damage, and they can't hold objectives. So that's my vote. Like that's in order to make these guys useful. I think that's what you have to do.
Yeah. Somebody asked, is there more than one beast in Nurgle model? No, there's only one, but it comes with two different. Like it comes with a different head, top of head option, and bottom of head option, and gut option.
And different arm. Yeah, gut
and
arm.
a different arm. Yeah. It's one model in the pack. You can just swap those those pieces.
Yep. And if you want to do his enthusiasm, here you go. He can pile in and attack twice.
Sure. Now he has 2 shots to do 0 damage.
Sure. Like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, give this guy. Yeah, letting this guy participate in fighting twice is not this. There is not an equivalency here that people are gonna be like, okay, fine, yeah, sure, man, whatever.
Okay, go ahead, take all the attacks you want.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that.
Not
like,
so
right. You know, and so then these guys like compile in 6. You know, like move 3, attack, move 3, yay! Mm-hmm. You know, sure, whatever, guy. And actually, like that could be used, by the way, to pull enemies out of combat. So you're still only in contact with one.
Sure.
If he's piling in and the enemy is not ever,
right?
Suddenly that becomes a super useful tool if he's piling in twice.
Yeah, I like it. No, I think that's a good fix. I think that's cool because then he just kind of sits there and he's just playing with his food at the edge of a unit and being an interesting, useful utility piece.
Right.
Which is what he's just got to have like a trick to justify his 70-point existence, because right now this guy's not beating a command point. Like he's losing to command point.
Right, and the reason why he's not a good screen, because here's the deal. Like I wanted him to be a screen.
Yeah, but that's just not his purpose.
But in the description, that's not his purpose. And like you need more models to block to screen with. Like he's just a single dude. So unless you're forcing charges, that was the other option. You force all enemies within 12 inches to only charge you. Mm-hmm. But at that point, like, there's nothing in the lore that's supporting that. And so, like, I think that this kind of weird paralysis, like, joyous piling in enthusiasm, I think that's the way to go. Mm-hmm. to make this kind of more legitimate. And get rid of the locus of virulence and just move the damage to 2.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Like, why? Yeah, it's the silliest thing. Agreed.
Anyway, okay, that's how I fix him.
I like it. It's a good fix. Okay. Cool. Let me bring up my next one. I'll stay on theme with you here, Tom.
Okay.
As I bring up my next one, which is Slobbity Bilepiper, the Herald of Nurgle.
Oof, poor guy.
That's right. I'm putting him in the top 10. So this guy's let's lay down some basics. Move of 4 inches. Got a 4-up save. Standard bravery 10 for, Nurgle demons, whatever, that's fine. 90 points. He is a leader. He's taking up one of your leader slots. let's see what we get for this investment. Obviously, as far as attacks go, whatever. I mean, it's not generally little weird heroes like this. You don't take them for their attacks, and certainly his attacks are nothing to write home about. At 4 attacks on 4s, 3s, neg 1, 2 damage. He does do more damage on average than the
Beast of Nurgle.
Than the Beast of Nurgle, yes, which is fun. So he's got that going for him. It's not nothing. This guy on average, just so we understand, let's lay out some basic math. This guy has a 37% chance to do 0 damage.
Yep.
A 42% chance to do 2 damage. His average is that he gets 1 hit through, basically, and it does 2 damage, right?
Yep.
And he has a very small chance to do 4 damage. So, at any rate, still very much in the I do kind of no damage area, but that's fine. Again, not really his purpose. 4-up save and a 5-up disgusting and resilient, that's fine. Like, this guy, when you're talking about heroes like this, the only purpose for little heroes like this is some kind of utility, right? And let's just start by saying this is like one of the most gloriously beautiful, fun, awesome Nurgle models they've ever made. Okay?
Yep.
This guy is probably like top 20 models designed in the last decade. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So what are his 2 abilities? Well, his mirth thing is he increases the bravery of Nurgle demons by 1 and subtracts 1 from the bravery of enemy units while they're within 7 inches. I understand the Nurgle and the number 7, but boy, does he have to be close to the enemy to give them neg 1 bravery. And I'm not sure...
With his 4-inch move.
With his 4-inch move. And by the way, I'm not sure how much turning bravery 10 demons into bravery 11 ever matters in the history of the game ever. So, cool beans. Okay, great. My Nurgle demons that were already bravery 10 are now bravery 11. And I have, again, like, I understand these neg 1 bravery effects can sometimes be a little relevant, right? Sometimes maybe they can make a guy run or something like that. I'm not saying that they're completely useless. I'm saying they're whatever. If you were to chart the asymptote of usefulness, the line goes ever closer but never touches. It's right there.
Yeah.
Like there it is. You could just see it. Okay. All right. So then, okay, well, that does nothing. All right, great. So that ability could have been the Ipsum Lorem text. Fantastic.
Yep.
Well, we've got one more ability. Let's see if it's worth it. Here we go. Jolly Gut Pipes. Reroll failed charge rolls and hit rolls of 1. I was like, when I first read that, I was like, whoa, hold on, what? Are we sleeping on this guy? Is he actually good? And then I kept reading. For friendly nerdlings and Great Unclean One units while they're within 7 inches. What? What? These are the 2 units he's inspiring with his tune. What a weird pick he has. They have to be already the joyous people. So, like, I assume the 2 happiest groups of people in Nurgle are the Nurglings and the Great Unclean Ones, right? They're both similar body types. They both seem pretty happy and jolly.
Why couldn't they have just been Nurgle demons?
Right. Well, don't get ahead to my fixes just yet, Tom, okay? This is the most weirdly construed ability. What? Why? most of the time you don't even want to be fighting with your Great Unclean One. They're terrible combatants, so I'm not charging or rerolling hits of 1. And they're heroes anyways, so like if I ever needed to reroll a charge, I probably just could, right?
Right. Oh, here's your alternative. You save the 100 points you would spend on this guy and spend 50 of those on a command point,
and then
and
40 on something else, anything else.
Use that on demand.
Yeah.
From the Great Unclean One, who can do it to himself. Both of those things.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, never mind the fact that you're like 40 points away from getting another unit, or 50 points away, I'm sorry, from getting another unit of Blight Kings when you buy this guy, right? And that just doesn't feel right at all. Right. Okay, so he's terrible. We get that. Like, this guy is straight garbage, because he's a utility hero with 2 completely worthless abilities, or as near as we can get to that, right? Again, it's remember, it's right down here. It's right. It's right there. Written on it. All right, we can fix this though. Okay, so first of all, let's up this guy's move an inch. This is just a minor thing, but he should move 5 inches. He's
he's jockey. He's bouncy.
He's bouncy. Yeah, like even his model conveys movement. Like the modeler modeled him to be conveying movement. He's like literally skipping forward with his bagpipes. He feels like a moving model. I'm not asking him to have like a move of 8 or something. You know, I'm just saying like he should be kind of faster than the average Nurgle demon, because he's like motivated to be skipping along and humming his tune. That's a minor change. It just feels like something that should be the case, right? He should be a little bit faster.
Agreed.
Okay, cool. His like attack profile is honestly fine. I don't care. Again, his guy's purpose is not to deal damage, so no issue.
Damage from him is incidental. He is a utility piece.
Correct. And then his save and his disgustingly resilient. Yep, both Nurgle things. Fine. Good with both of them. No issue there. Obviously, what we're honing in on is the abilities, right?
Right. He needs to, be real utility.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So let's start with the Jolly Gut Pipes, because that's the easiest one, and you already said it, Tom, which is just, first of all, we're gonna update this scroll to modern at the same time.
Oh yeah, hold on. Stop. He should move 7.
Oh, because he's got the Nurgle move? Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing. All right. Yeah. I like that, Skaith. You're absolutely right. I was just thinking, like, making him move 5, but you're right. If he was hopping along, he's so infused with Nurgle's energy that he literally moves at 7. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That would be very fun. I like that, Skaith. Good call there. So the Jolly Gut Pipes, we're going to do exactly what you just said, Tom. Like, you nailed it exactly. It's just the Jolly Gut Pipe should be rerolled failed charge rolls and hit rolls of 1 for friendly Nurgle demons. That's where we're going to use the Nurgle demon keyword. Okay?
Within 7 inches.
Or we could update it to the modern terminology and say wholly within 14 for that, right? Which would be fine. Yep. Like you do the double 7 thing. So I would be okay with either one of those. I'd actually kind of rather prefer the second wording, just because they would bring it into modern terminology. And wholly within 14 is a pretty generous, generous bubble.
It's acceptable.
Yep, it's acceptable. Exactly. Then this guy's actually really interesting because Nurgle demons aren't classically the most offensive type of units you'd want to get in there, but still, it's interesting. There are certainly things where that can play against, where that can play with, where that can still bonus, like other Nurgle things that have the demon keyword. It becomes kind of interesting. It would be neat to have him standing behind Archeon, for example. That would be a fun one. Just kind of a neat little... There'd just be neat synergies you can do with Nurgle demon as the keyword, right?
Yes.
The disease of mirth, right? Like, I like what this is going for. Like, the concept is that he's literally spreading this disease of mirth and making people really happy.
Cause the enemy to literally die laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the description.
Yes.
Again,
exactly.
I'm going back to that North Star.
Nope, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's you sung on to what I was going to get, right? Okay. Yeah. So 100%. Like, yeah, let's go to the description, right? Infected with a plague of mirth, they prance and quip, entertaining Nurgle's demons, even if they cause the enemy to literally die laughing. Okay, yep, you seized on exactly where I was gonna go, right? Yep. So the llama cat, one of my favorite models, the llama cat, right?
Yep.
It has like this constant aura around it that's 12 inches, where it can like you can play this little roll off game with your enemy,
Yep.
and if you win, you make a unit fight last, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. What I want to do here is I want this guy to have a 14-inch aura around him of his music, right?
Yep.
And enemies that are in the any enemy that's in the mirth radius, right?
Yep.
The simplest version of this rule, okay? Probably the like I've got a couple different versions of this. Here's the like simplest play that fits the description the best, that isn't really utility but would still be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Is any at the like in your hero phase or at some point in the shooting phase, I don't give a crap, at the end of his charge phase, like pick some time that's neat. You roll a die for every enemy unit within 14 inches of him. On a 4+, they take a D3 mortal wounds, right? As people start to die from laughter,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
That's just like the straight up easiest version of this thing. Okay.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. The more interesting version of this thing, okay, where they literally die laughing, all right, is if he had to pick like one enemy within his sort of mirth range, right? Okay, to fully infect. Okay, and
Yep.
their disease of mirth made them like heedless of anything else around. Okay.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And they became immune to like inspiring presence or anything else like that. They can never have those effects, right?
Yeah.
And he like kind of just shuts that off because they're not paying attention to their commanders, their leaders. They're just literally dancing and mirthful and happy until they die, right? And then instead of battle shocking, right, you would literally make it like the unit cannot benefit from any of these things and is immune to battle shock because they're full of mirth, okay?
Right.
But when they would take a battle shock test, right?
Yep.
Then they instead suffer some number of mortal wounds as at that point is when they start dying laughing.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So you make it so like they're overwhelmed and happy. They're infected by the joy of Nurgle, but the joy of Nurgle is a two-edged sword, right? And like they don't run away. They couldn't get the command ability benefit to shut this off, and instead you'd like total up how much they would lose by, and instead you take some number of D3 mortal wounds.
Of mortal wounds. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They don't take battle shock, but they still take they still do functionally a morale test,
right,
on the same numbers, and I would still do it like all on the same numbers or whatever, and then just for every number over like what you would normally experience as fleeing, that you take that number of mortal wounds.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple different ways it could play out. You could make it like on an X or higher, but it's D3. Like there's lots of different interesting ways you could build it out that would have slightly different mechanical implications, right? I don't know what the best version of that would be. I'd have to like probably write it up a few times and then play test it and see what I like. But
sure.
Like that feels like they're actually covered with they're actually getting this mirthful disease, right? They're so happy that they're just dying, right? Like people are just dropping dead. It's a little more complicated rule than the simple version, but that's why I gave both versions of it, right? One is like real in flavor, but weird and kind of complicated. One is like dead drop simple and still cool, right? So, it's whatever. But I would be happy with either one.
But all of it is better than what it is.
All of it's better than what it is. And it would be really useful, right? This guy would go around, he'd have a presence on the battlefield, because, like, he could be dinging heroes or causing mortal wounds to units, and at the same time, he's helping his own guys. Like, he wants to be close, but not in the battle. He would kind of be like the rear right behind your unit support dude. If he was moving 7, as was suggested by Scathe, he could actually, like, keep up with people, right? Because he's not going to be running and charging. He's just going to be running, right? Because you're not catapulting him into units like you do with your Blight Kings anymore, right? So to me, that's the way to make him nice. That seems fun. And I think you'd see this dude on the table. And he's still basically a 90 or 100 point hero. So, there you go.
Sure.
There's my guy. There's my new Slobbity Bile Piper. And then we can see this beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous sculpt on the table. And I do not say that often about Nurgle models, but this guy earns it. If there was ever a straight Nurgle demon I would paint, it would be this guy. That's what I'll say.
Sure.
All right, Tom, you ready for your next one?
I am.
Your next one, Tom. That's right, our old friends. It's the zombies. Yes, indeed, a Rooney. It's zombie time. Zombie time. This is definitely one of the worst units in the game right now. Like, I'll tell you what, some of these I think there's argument to be had. Yeah. This one, nope. These guys are bad. They're straight bad.
So I'm gonna read zombies.
Yes.
How
By the way,
you
zombies are 60 points, just so we're clear. So they are cheap, but continue.
How you mess up zombies.
Sure.
One of the most iconic monsters in our time. Death. Okay, here we go. Here's your description. These rotting corpses are animated by necromantic magic. Though slow and clumsy, they will attack their prey with single-minded tirelessness, ignoring all but the most vicious wounds as they bite and tear at their unfortunate victims. Those they slay are raised in turn to join the ranks of the shambling horde. Okay?
Yep.
Sounds like
classic zombies.
Like
we all know zombies. I've seen the movies.
Yeah, you've seen all of the movies.
I've watched Warm Bodies, so I think I've got a good beat on zombies. I understand. They're into romance. I get the whole thing. They live at airports. I basically get the core of it. Yeah.
They're clearly motivated by carrying flags. Mm-hmm. Because they have a standard bearer where they get +1 bravery if they're carrying a banner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Classic. Yeah, I mean, part of that's a sort of effect of the classic kit, them wanting to find representation in it. Yes.
And they have noisemakers where they can bang on these noisemakers and, always they can always move 6 inches when they charge, even if unless their charge rolls higher, because they're renowned musicians.
Sure. Do not have a champion, notably. Surprisingly, no single zombie rises to the level of zombie champion.
Okay, let's talk about the profiles. They're a 4-inch move. You know what? Cool.
Yeah, fine.
One wound. They have no save profile, which means they save on a 7 up. Which, yeah, whatever. According to the base rules, they don't get a save. That's fine. 10 bravery because they're mindless. Cool. Awesome. Yep. Zombie bite, 1-inch range, 1 attack, 5s and 5s, no Ren 1 damage. They have an ability. If you have a bunch of zombies, that is a horde of zombies, you can add 1 to hit and wound rolls for a unit of zombies if it has 20 or more models, or 2 if it has 40 or more models. So realistically, they can get to a bunch of 3s and 3s. Like 1 attack per model, but
for like 5 seconds until anything attacks them. But yes.
Until
because
anything,
these guys will die in bucket loads.
Right. At the end of the combat phase, you roll a dice for each model slain by the unit. Every 6+ regens this unit. Technically, they're summonable as well, so you can refill them with wizards. And then if there's a corpse cart within 9 inches, which there won't be, they get an additional +1 to hit.
Sure. So they could be on 2s and 3s, which is crazy that we're talking about a unit that can get to 2s and 3s and yet is still bad. And yet it is. Continue.
Yeah. Because if you look at it in relationship to basically anything else in death, mm-hmm. it's competing with like skeletons.
Right.
And a bunch of other things that are all in the same design space. Mm-hmm. But actually have like saving throws and stuff. So there's that. I think they missed the boat entirely with zombies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, with that sweet redesign, Tom.
Okay, I think that the design needs to be this.
I'm ready.
Zombies are on a 60 or 160 pie plate.
Okay, going all the way. The big pie plate, the Maw Crusher, Alarial, Archeon pie plate. Okay.
Yep. They have a horde profile, i.e. they have a monster profile, which doesn't affect a movement because they're zombies. Of course, it doesn't slow them down.
Right.
And all of what you just described of like the moving up and down of hits and wounds and all that, you just do that on the profile.
Yep, on the monster profile, sure.
On the
Because it's a single
profile.
model now with like just a horde of zombies. It's literally just called Horde of Zombies.
Right. Okay. And you like, and I would even like have them have a flat like 15 attacks or something.
Okay, sure.
Like,
or more.
Because they're zombies.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a horde of zombies. This is what they do.
Yep.
Okay. And all of your like and on top of all that, like, okay, guess what? When they eat people and they add to their number, just add wounds, max wounds to their wound chart.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, so they
By the way, there's plenty of precedent for that. It's what the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher does right now. He can add wounds over his wound chart.
Right.
Yeah.
And so by a simple redesign, you've like completely fixed this thing. And you know what? On top of all that, if you want, you can say, and then this unit counts for as 20 models when claiming objectives or whatever.
Right. Because it's just a horde of people. Yeah. 100% you add that rule on. Yes.
Right.
And you just let people go nuts with like this mega base horde thing.
Right.
I would personally, my only pushback on you is I'd put it on a 130, not a 160, but that's fine.
Sure. Okay. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, like zombies aren't strings of 10 models holding ranks to chaff enemy cav.
Right.
That's not what zombies are. Yep. That's not how you've described them. That's not what they are in the popular zeitgeist.
Yep.
They're a horde of shambling undead that is relentless. And I mean, I think that this is a complete redesign from the ground up.
Yeah. I mean, you have them have ultra healing when they get in and slay models, right?
Right.
Like they have super duper healing, like that Charybdis healing we just mentioned, like ramped up to 1 million, right? Where they're just basically gaining a wound per thing they slay, right?
Right.
Because
every model
everybody's
slain
immediately raising as a zombie, right? The only other thing I would push out, Tom, the only other rule I would throw on here is I like slow zombies traditionally, but I also like how when zombies get close to people and like see
they
some of their prey, they kind of like go after them quickly. Like it's the old the zombie grab for you.
Yeah.
Like I'm an original
Night
of the Living Dead guy. And, for the most part, zombies a lot of times just kind of stood around in there, if they weren't actively on somebody, like going for somebody. Yep. So I think that, like, their little noisemaker rule or whatever, right? You actually give them, like, the 3d6 charge or something like that so that they're slow, but then they just have, like, this explosive speed out. Right, where they just can like, the big horde just, it's kind of shambling slowly until it...
And it's called brains with an exclamation point.
Yeah, exactly. Until it gets within sort of range of the enemy, and then it's just like, and then they all go nuts and go chasing somebody, right? Because that's zombies. That's what they do, right? So, I mean, that feels pretty reasonable to me.
And then I would say, here we go. And if you want to go one step farther,
sure.
Every enemy attack roll that's a natural 6 to hit does an additional damage
to them because you got them in the head.
Yeah, it's headshot.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And so they take extra damage from enemies rolling natural 6s.
Can I propose a perhaps fun, a fun defensive rule they have?
Sure.
Okay. To represent the whole zombies are hard to bring down thing, like just sort of errant attacks can't do it.
Yep.
You could make it so they could never be wounded on, like, wounded, not hit, wounded on better than a 4.
Sure.
Right? So if you're already wounding on 4s, there's no effect. But if you, like, wound on 2s, it moves to 4s. If you wound on 3s, it moves to 4s, right? To represent the fact there's so much meat on them you can hit that just doesn't affect them.
Yep.
Right? You give them the rule where they can't be wounded on anything greater than a 4.
Yeah, I'm in.
And then the other half of that rule is what you just said, right? Like if you roll a 6 to wound, you do an additional damage to them or something like that.
Right.
If you feel like that needs to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. And then I agree with Coach. Like I'm okay saying that like if they aren't in combat and they're within 12 inches, they must charge.
Sure.
12 inches.
They want them brains. They got to get in
they're
there.
mindless zombies. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
There
that
you
could
go.
be fun.
Yeah.
Like,
So
a big, like an ultra healing where they're just like chewing into people, making you're moving around this big base of a horde of zombies. They hit, they make a ton of attacks, they refill their numbers, right? You're like, they're dying, they're going down, right? Like zombies in zombie movies often get mowed down, right?
right.
But then, like, the problem is they keep making more. That's what happens, right? Yeah, I'm down with that. I like it. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so I just and somebody asked about like what about models that have like X number of attacks within, whatever. Guess what? When you have hundreds of zombies, those attacks, there's always more zombies.
Yeah, sure.
Like moon hammers and decimators, they don't do enough damage to quell the horde.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't care because I mean honestly, Moonhammers and Decimators are also in the bad war scroll but not worst area, and I would just fix those rules anyway, so that's fine.
Right. No, I agree. And what is their points? I don't care.
How much do they cost? The reasonable amount. Like I'm sure we could find the right cost, right? Because we'd make it the equivalent of like a horde of 40 zombies. Like you'd figure out some.
Yeah, you're probably like in the 140 to 180, depending on how combat effective they are.
Yeah, I mean we're making a monster, right? Effectively, because it's got that
scroll. Yeah.
So assumingly you're in that 150 to 200 point monster range, realistically.
Yeah.
Right, depending on exactly what abilities they have.
And because they're mindless, you could even say something like they can't hold objectives. Like you can play in those spaces, and that's fine. Like, and that'll move points up and down. But what we have here are just bad skeletons.
Right. Yep. And if you wanted to help people out like decimators and stuff like that, you could give them a dark side, by the way, to that 20 thing rule, to that 20 person rule, and just say like this horde counts as 20 models.
Like for for attacks that calculate the number of models within range, this horde always counts as 20 models, or this horde always counts as a number of models equal to how many wounds it has.
Sure, or something like that. So like if they touch the edge of it, yeah, sure. So like if decimators are swinging these big axes, lopping off the heads of just like a dozen zombies, yeah, then their attacks shoot through the roof. Maybe they're really good, or warp fire throwers melt the heck out of them, or whatever. Like you can play in this space of going up and down as to what they're good against and what they're bad against, right? But nonetheless, turning them into a true horde of zombies would actually make them a unique and interesting thing that would have a cool and different role in the army, right?
Right.
So yeah.
So that's like they just need to fix zombies because they are this kind of iconic piece of. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. They'd never, by the way, if they ever did this, they wouldn't give us the freedom to just like, here's a 130 mil base and a ton of zombies, go nuts.
No.
It would be like
They would make a diorama.
They'd make some ridiculous diorama out of it. Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? I don't hate that.
Sure. I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind if the kit was just literally like, here's a bunch of rocks and here's a bunch of zombies. Go nuts.
What you do is you make like 5 or 6 different let's see this, 3 or 4 different like set pieces of like little diorama pieces that can be moved around on the base in a bunch of different ways, and then a bunch of free zombies that get mixed in that are like clawing their way out of the ground or dragging things or whatever, and you mix them in, and so like you end up with a completely different unit every time.
I love it. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. We forge ahead. Where's my next one at? There he is. Oh, you knew he was coming. Much like Thanos, he is inevitable. The Sigmar.
Oof.
My only other...
Poor guy.
Indeed. My only other monster pick. And this guy was tough. Okay? Like, I thought for a long time about this guy. Because, he's bad. So...
Yep.
The Sigmar is 140 points. He's 14 wounds on a 5-up save. He moves 8 inches. Mercifully, he does not have a 0 to 1 wounds chart, so that's nice. His boulder is straight terrible, and I hate even talking about it. Because it's one attack that hits on a 4, wounds on a 2 at -2 Ren and does d6 damage. He can reroll his hits against wizards, which is like, well, I guess it's something. And he can dispel 2 spells. Okay? Okay. Good stuff so far. Oh, there's a page 2. That's how this one's set up. And then he can, that's it. He can also unbind 2 spells. Yeah, I said both of them already. Okay. And he also has 8 horn attacks that are 4s and 3s, neg 1 damage. Fantastic. In melee.
How can you say this guy's bad?
How? How could I do it? It's almost unfathomable. Inconceivable. Yeah. This guy's real bad. Like super duper bad. So let me see if I can unpack why. So this guy has a 44% chance to do 0 or 1 damage in melee. So he's got a coin flip to literally do 1 or 0 damage. By the way, the good side of his damage in melee, the other like 40+% that brings us to the Pareto principle or whatever, to 80%, is 2 or 3. That's what gets us the rest of the way there. So, again, he does basically no damage. His rock, this might as well just say nothing. It might as well say, like, 1 attack, who cares, why are you still reading this, Rend, it doesn't matter, how are these still words that are going into human eyeballs? Okay. Like, even on the reroll, it's pathetic as to what it happens to do. Okay. Now, he's bad. Like, just in every way, shape, or form. He does no damage. He has no utility to speak of, other than the fact, I guess you could say he can unbind, but, like, this is an army where you've got plenty of people who can unbind. Like, it's not a problem. In Beasts of Chaos, they literally have a battalion that makes every unit you have be able to unbind. Like, every single unit can unbind. So...
and a reminder that he's at 140 points.
Yes, he is. I like... Yeah, okay. And he has all the classic monster problems, right? Again, like we talked about earlier, he's only one guy. He has bad board control. Okay? Okay. Mm-hmm. Cool beans. I think this is generally one of the most hated rule sets in the game around a monster. For one of the most cool ideas for a monster, like living artillery in Beasts of Chaos, right? But it's just straight garbage. Okay? And yeah, I mean, that's Brian S. just joked to make him 30 points, job's done. I mean, that's the problem. You can't, right? Like, that literally is probably the point you need to place him at. And that's just, it creates like, that's just dumb. Like, that's dumb. Okay. So how do we fix this? How do we fix this trash fire? Okay. All right. So, oh, I should state that when he unbinds, by the way, he does, the caster suffers a mortal wound and you can heal 1 wound. Sorry, I didn't want to shortchange anything. Let's get it all out there. Okay. The Cyclopean Eye of a Cygor allows it to see the flows of magic that wend across the battlefield. As they tear their way through the ranks of the enemy, they feast upon spells as well as the sorcerous souls of those who cast them. No, they don't. They don't do any of the things you just said in that description. 0. You're O for words. Okay? That's number 1. Okay, so how do we make this guy good? Well, let's start with the obvious thing, which is the rock throw. Okay? Let's give him 2 rocks on 3s and 2s at neg 2 rend that just do a flat 4 damage. Okay? And he can keep his reroll to hits against wizards. Alright, so we're giving him 1 more hit, and we're turning that d6 into a 4, and we're making him throw 2 rocks. Alright, that's where we're starting. Just flat 4. Okay? And we let him reroll against wizards. Cool beans. Now he's not auto-killing characters, because that does feel kind of bad. Like, anybody who's ever taken a catapult, like an OBR catapult to their 5-wound character, knows that, like, that's not the best experience when this person just rolls in with, like, hey, all my catapults make, like, 4 attacks. Up, squish that 5-wound hero, squish that 5-wound hero, ha 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 ha. So we'll let him do 4 damage, and we'll give him 2 attacks with his boulder. Okay? Okay. His massive horns, that's fine. We're gonna change the name of that, because I hate that it's just massive horns. We're gonna change that to, like, massive horns and flailing fists or something like that, just to kind of represent his total attacks. Okay, and he's gonna have 10 of those attacks on 3s and 3s, neg 1, 2 damage. Okay, now he can actually kill something. Okay, and again, it'll be a diminishing profile thing here as well. Okay.
Yep.
We're also going to give him a second little melee attack that's just like some stompy feet, right? To just with like 2 attacks on 3s and 3s, neg 1, 2 damage or something like that, just to kind of represent that he's also a big giant monster and he can stomp into people.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. But again, now he's actually like, he can do some damage, right? He can throw rocks. The rocks are relatively scary. Great. Okay. Fine. He hits better. He can reroll against certain targets. Wonderful. Oh, by the way, I would let him reroll against either wizards or any hero with an artifact of power, since that's a thing we can do now. Just as a slight aside. It's not like a huge additional thing, but like, why not? You know?
Yep.
And let's talk about his abilities. So if I'm going to take a guy who, like this, who's like the wizard hunter, yeah? In an era of very powerful spellcasters and stuff like that, then he better do something really interesting, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, but again, we're not, this isn't like Khorne endless spells kicking back or whatever, okay? But we're going to explore that same territory, all right? And here's how we're going to do it. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. He can unbind 2 spells around, and he gets a +2 bonus to his unbind rolls. He's like the Khorne guys with the brass collars.
Okay? Yep.
If he unbinds successfully, the enemy wizard suffers a D3 mortal wounds, and he heals a D3 wounds. Okay?
Yep.
If he doubles their casting roll,
okay,
all right,
yep,
they lose
which
the spell.
Which is going to be hard.
Which is going to be hard. He's got +2, right? But he can very much punish normal casters, right? So, like, normal casters, you get things off on a 5 or 6. He has the chance to do this. It's not a high chance. They lose the spell permanently for the rest of the game. That spell is now gone.
Yep.
Okay. And he broadcasts a neg 1 to cast aura, okay, 18 inches around him for non Beasts of Chaos wizards.
Sure.
Okay. So pretty big aura around him, about the same range as his boulder throw, right? Like, that's why we're trying to pin those to the same range, right?
Yep.
So then what we've got is a pretty decent Dispeller working on multiple levels, right? He's diminishing the enemy cast if he's within his boulder range, which is where he wants to be, right? He's got a pretty good unbind check. Like, +2 that's a good unbind, right? Like, that's not nothing. Is it like +4 or something that some armies can get? No, but he's not Nagash or something like that. Like, let's keep it reasonable, right? He is a good unbinder. And when he's unbinding, he's killing the enemy wizards. By the way, the ones that he might have just hit for 4 damage with his rock, who might be sitting on 1 wound left, right?
Right.
Or something like that. And he's now killing them when they try to cast the spells around him and healing himself back up. And he's now a concentrated melee threat, right?
Right.
Cool beans. We're good to go, right? Oh, somebody said, what about endless spells? Sure, you could give him like the dispel check as well and have something interesting happen. I didn't really think about endless spells with him. Could be interesting to have him be an endless spell eater. That I don't.
It'd be neat.
I didn't contemplate that.
It'd be a neat utility.
Mm-hmm. Sure. You might be able, like, we might give him the same ability with endless spells, like where if he eats an endless spell, he gets to roll against, he can unbind or dispel, and if he dispels an endless spell with his +2, he also, like, he heals a bunch of wounds or something like that, you know.
Yep.
Because he sucks up all of that magic. So yeah, I can see that. Now you've got a cool guy who's like, actually there's a reason to take him, especially in a high magic world, right?
Yep.
And, you know, he would be very punishing to enemy wizards. He would be, like, he would be doing a lot of damage. He would have the chance to knock spells off of their list completely. And he would still be a competent melee threat, right? Like, he would live up to that thing. He would be a threat at both range, in melee, and to enemy wizards. In none of those is he perfect, but he is an interesting piece that threatens in lots of different ways. And you'd put him around, like, again, the 180 points range. Like, he could be back up to a reasonable monster range where he's probably at, like, 180 or something like that.
Yep.
Cool. There you go. Now he's a fun scroll, right? He's getting in there.
Yeah.
He has a reason to exist. And rather than just having any old 100 other things I could have in Beast of Chaos far cheaper that can also unbind, right?
Yeah, totally.
And there you go. Yeah, and like somebody said, still a 5+ save. I'm personally of a belief that, like, all monsters should kind of be at a 4+ save just for being monsters. But no, we could keep them at a 5+. I'm not willing to die. Like, I won't die on that hill. Like, whatever. 4+, 5+, I don't, you know. Sure. You'd bump him a few more points if he went up to 4+. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, you ready for your next one?
Yes, sir.
All right. Lotan.
Warden of the Soul Ledgers.
That's
okay,
right.
Here you go.
He was inevitable.
You all knew he was coming, folks.
He was inevitable. Yes, indeed. He really is Thanos right here. Him and the Sigor. These are like the two most often referenced guys. That's why I paired them together.
Named the Warden of the Soul Ledgers, Lotan marches to war with every Ideneth enclave. Really? Not only his own Ironrack. So great is his willpower, so vast is his desire to collect souls, that it manifests itself in the Ether Sea. This mystic cloud inspires all Ideneth Deepkin, but especially Namarti, who will fight with renewed vigor in Lotan's presence.
Okay.
And here we are again.
I mean, obviously he's got like 50,000 attacks, which all amount to nothing. We don't even need to talk about him. They're all just nothing.
Right. You know, like, they should be, again, like, just Oktar's attacks. Like, Oktar's armaments.
Yes, exactly. Correct. He should have one attack profile called Oktar's armaments. Yes.
Right. Because he's not stabbing anybody in the eye with that bone quill. Just stop it. Like, Oktar is doing all the work. He's writing stuff down. That's how this goes. Okay.
That's why you train a fighting octopus. So you don't have to fight.
Got a point.
Yeah.
Okay. So 6-inch move, 5 wounds, 6 up save, 7 bravery.
Yep. The profile of a true hero.
Let's talk about the hero's journey. Let's talk about his abilities.
This is the hero's journey. Yes, go. I'm ready.
He has a catalog of souls and all of a bunch of words. Does it? Doom, you're going to miss the best part, the final one. Okay. So the catalog of souls adds 1 to bravery of friendly IDK units while they're wholly within 12 of this model. In addition, Namarti reroll hit rolls of 1 if they're wholly within 12 of this model with their 32-inch mill bases. And then finally, the Writhing Tentacles gives him a 5+ after save.
Sure. Okay. It's a lot of tentacles. They can block attacks. No, there you go. Sure.
Cool.
Gotcha.
Oh, and let's not forget the other boon. He is named, so he cannot take magical items.
Sure.
This dude's doing nothing. Nothing. Worse than nothing on the table. Okay. Let's just get that out there.
Yep.
You know, people we've talked about potentially in a prior version doing like an Epidemius rule. I don't hate that. I think it should be as simple as this. It should be a static or a bonus, 21 inches.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think that it should. I think all IDK should get +1 bravery within that area. No Marty unit should be battle shock immune.
Okay.
Just flat. Okay. And then once and we've talked, like you had suggested at one point in time, a bonus to move on the Namarti.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate that. I don't hate giving Namarti, like, so you can say Namarti within this aura or battle shock immune and gain, +3 movement.
Yeah.
Movement character.
Because it just feels like they're fighting with renewed vigor. Okay, cool.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
That feels like they're energetic, they're ready to go, and it would also help with one of the Namarti problems, which is getting them out and moving, right, and keeping up with the rest of a pretty speedy army.
Right. Yep. And then I would have some Benny, like when this guy there would be some Benny for when a unit is killed.
Okay. Yeah. Like because he's actually doing the soul ledgering.
Right. And so it needs to be something like, and I don't know what that is, right? But and so I haven't fully thought through what this looks like, right? Mm-hmm. But I just know that he needs to have some Benny that he hands out to all of his, fanatical followers. When they do their job. It needs to not be a chart. It needs to be a one-off fire and forget. This is what happens in this aura.
Yeah, I mean, he just give him a command ability. It's pretty straightforward. Okay.
You could do that too. Yeah.
And like the command ability could just be one that's put on a trigger, where like Lotan can infuse the Ether Sea with energy once he's tallied the souls, right? So like if a model is like Lotan can use this ability during the combat phase when an enemy model has been slain. If he has, then all Namarti units within, or pick a Namarti unit within range, they gain +1 attacks. It could be that simple.
Right. Sure. Yep. But regardless, like he just needs to do something with like tallying souls or reacting to like gathering soul energy, or whatever.
Yeah, and it should be focused on the Namarti because that's what like that's what his description seems to say, right?
Yep.
And by the way, if you want to, like, again, you can just keep the nod to everybody else with, like, a big bravery buff aura around him. Sure, that's fine. Like, I have no issue with that. Like, it's okay. I don't know that it's
like
doing
he
much.
He helps everybody.
Yeah, he's inspiring by his presence because he's
right.
this big hero who's empowering the Ether Sea, right? But, like, he can... But his main infusions are to...
triggering upon the death of an enemy. Yes, and it's triggering on a death of an enemy because he's collecting souls.
Right.
And he's motivating others to collect souls.
Yep.
So that's what I got for Lotan. I mean, at the end of the day, like, man, this guy is just oof. Like, it simply doesn't get worse than him.
That's like mini hobby therapy had an interesting idea here. What about something along the lines of after gathering so many souls, you gain a command point? There's a lot of interesting things you could do there. The challenge would be you don't want to turn it into like a bookkeeping exercise where you're like literally marking down the exact number of models you slayed or something like that. That's what you're trying to avoid.
No, how about this? Whenever a unit is destroyed within the 21 inches, an enemy unit.
Yeah.
Yep. If it's destroyed within 21 inches, roll dice. On a 5+, gain a command point.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Yes. You tie it to like an enemy unit being destroyed where he gets this big soul infusion, right? Because the unit was wiped out. And then, yes, you roll a die and get a command point.
Now, that does nothing for the fact that there's no command abilities for these guys to actually like spend those command points on. But, that's not here nor there.
Well, if he had his own written command ability on there, then all of a sudden there would be, right? Because then then you have actually something to use it on because he's creating his own little nice cycle, right? Yep.
So that's how I'd fix Lotan. But like, man, he just needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. All right. So,
enemy units, by the way, because he's only gathering.
He's gathering souls from the enemies. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. 100%.
Yep.
Because if like Namardi die, they have little weak atrophied souls. He can't get anything from them.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I'm gonna cheat now, Tom. Okay.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. That's right, folks. It's time to cheat. I'm cheating because I'm gonna do 2 scrolls, two for the price of 1, but they're basically the same scroll. I'll move through them both quickly. Here we
Okay.
go. 1.
This is not your last one. This is your 4th one. Okay, go.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of do like this group is my 4th one. Here we go. Night Runners. These guys fall into the same thing as Spider Riders, where 2 different people wrote their war scrolls, and one group thought it was about shooting, and one group thought it was about stabbing, and they just didn't get together. So, anyways, they're very similar to Spider Riders in a lot of ways. Okay, Night Runners. 7-inch move, 6 up save, 4 bravery. These are familiar sounding numbers of badness. They've got Eshin throwing weapons, 12 inches, 1 attack, 4s and 5s. Look out for that. Similar to those goblin bows, but a little bit more accurate. No rend, 1 damage. And then they've also got a stabbing blade. Look out for that stabbing blade. 1 inch range, 1 attack, 4s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage. Okay. So these guys are bad. Just right there I could stop and we would understand that they're bad. These guys are 80 points for 10, by the by. So these are only 20 points less than your Spider Riders, and they don't have like some weird venom attack or something. Okay? Now, they can run and still shoot. Wonderful. That's exactly what I was wanting to do. Make sure that I can get off those sweet, sweet throwing weapons at 4s and 5s. Which, by the way, let's just return to the math. Now they do have if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with their throwing weapons is 6, it's 2 hits instead of 1. Because of that rule, if all 10 of them throw at something, they do an average of 1 damage. So,
sounds like goblins.
Pretty great. Yeah, so you can run and shoot and get extra hits on your thing that does 1 damage. I love it.
Woof.
And I don't mean 1 damage per guy. Like, I know they have damage 1. I mean literally the total of the unit's average damage is 1 against. All this is against a 4-up save whenever I say these things, by the way. The only rule on them that's worth anything, is slinking advance. This used to be better, by the way. After armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, you can move this unit up to 2d6 inches. Okay. Pre-game moves are good, right? That rule almost kept them off the list. Almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because just pre-game moves are so good and so powerful on their own, right? But the problem is it's 2d6 inches. If they had still had their original version was they could just move. Right? If I had a guaranteed 7, where I knew I was going to actually make clearance between my army and these guys, then then they probably wouldn't have made this list. They'd be bad. Still very bad. But at least they'd have some use. But the fact that there's a lot of rolls I'm going to generate that are going to clear absolutely no distance away from my army, and somebody can come through, blow them up, and then like a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist will just be like, ha ha ha, who cares? I killed them, now I pile in again and kill your stuff behind, because your line was not far enough out, right? Like, they're not serving their purpose because of that random 2d6, okay? All right. Yep. Now, very quickly, Gutter Runners, the other side of this, okay? Yep. So, Gutter Runners, the advanced version, and this hurts my soul, by the way. Gutter Runners, the advanced version of Night Runners. Eshin is like my favorite Skaven clan, bar none. This was always what I stand for. Like, these were the guys in Mordheim. Eshin's what it's all about. I hate that they're so bad. Okay, so at any rate, here we go. 7-inch move, just like the other guys. 1 higher bravery, 1 higher save. Cool beans. They have 2 attacks with their throwing star, same range, 4s and 5s, still no rend, 1 damage. And then they have a punch, dagger, and blade that they make 2 attacks with on 3s and 4s, neg 1, rend 1 damage. So they have kind of an okay melee profile. Okay melee profile. I want to drive that home. Okay. you get 5 of these guys for 60 points. Okay, that's right. They come in 5s because they're elite infantry. This is definitely worth that. This unit can run and still shoot. Again, no, wrong, not why I took these guys. Like, what are you doing? And again, they have the 6s or double taps thing. I do not care. These guys instead can ambush, by the way, but not like good ambush where they can start off the table and, you know, do good things like heart renders or something. Instead, you take them off the battlefield, and then they have to come in at the end of your first movement phase, and they have to be wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield, 9 inches away from enemy units. So they have literally the worst version of this, right?
Oof.
The worst version. Okay. So, again, these guys do, like, their melee is exactly, or sorry, their range is exactly the same. Again, they do 1 damage on average at range because 5 of these guys has the same number of attacks, you know, because they make 2 each. So these guys are just bad. So I went ahead and took the liberty of just writing new scrolls for these guys. So here we go. Here's my nice version of these. I suspect I'm going to have to zoom in. Let's see if we can get that big enough to where I can actually see what the heck we're doing here. Yeah, there we go. That'll work, I guess. Okay, so I tried to keep them kind of in the same range. Like, you know, live up to their same purpose, but make them useful. Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
So I used the, like, scroll builder tool to do this. All right, so first of all, the throwing weapons, I put them on 4s and 3s, no rend 1. This is the Night Runners. 4s and 3s, no rend 1 damage. Okay, so kind of an interesting, slightly better than nothing shooting attack. And then their stabbing blades, let's give them 2 attacks because they're all dual wielding. Like every one of these models in the kit is dual wielding or has 2 things in their hands or whatever. So let's call that just standard 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, no rend 1 damage, right? But let's give them poisoned weapons. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with an esching throwing weapon or stabbing blades, both, is a 6, that attack automatically wounds. Do not make a wound roll, but the enemy makes a save roll as normal. So you just get to skip the wound roll. Small bonus. Not a mortal wound. Small bonus. Slinking advance. After armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, this unit may make a normal move. It may not run. And then nimble dodge. Roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model. On a 6+, the wound is negated. Right? Because they're ninjas. Right?
Makes sense.
They can jump. I don't have run and shoot or retreat and shoot or run and charge or retreat and charge or anything on here because I'm assuming that when I rewrote these War Scrolls, I rewrote the other Eshin stuff to just have abilities to grant that out. Right? The Assassins or the Allegiance ability or something just grants that ability instead of the dumb stuff it does now. Right? I'm assuming that I'm ground upping Eshin here. And like they'll have synergies that would make them do that. Retreat and charge. Run and still shoot and charge. The things they should be doing as super cool ninja rats. Right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay. All right. All right, Checky. Eternal conflag. It's hard to say. Internal conflagration. Conflagration. There we go. Sorry, that's how you would say that.
Yep.
The appropriate pronunciation is internal conflagration. Conflagration. By the way, you should never check with me on pronunciations. I'm terrible at pronunciations, but conflagration. Okay. Anyways, here's my Gutter Runners remake. Okay. So, Gutter Runners are elite infantry, right? These are like... First of all, there's a little change to the Gutter Runners. Gutter Runners don't have a champion normally, for like no reason I can perceive. The base War Scroll just doesn't have a champion. Like, Night Runners do. Night Runners have a champion. Gutter Runners don't. I do not know what this... Why? Like, it makes no sense to me. At any rate, here we go. So first of all their attacks now have rend. So we're going 2 attacks with their throwing stars just like they had, but now 4s and 3s instead of 4s and 5s. Neg 1, rend 1 damage. Punch, dagger, and blade, 2 attacks. 3s and 3s like elite infantry should have. Neg 1, rend 1 damage. They're still like, you know, whatever. Poison weapons, these guys have the traditional mortal wound on a 6 to hit roll because they have the good poison, right? So if they roll a 6 to hit with either their shooting weapon or their melee weapons, they do a mortal wound. They get a real infiltration ambush rule, right? Where they're they, you can set them up in reserve, and then they have to show up by the bottom of round 3, and they can appear anywhere. Standard good infiltrators.
Yep.
If an ogre and his cats can do this, what I'm describing, okay? And those cats are dirt cheap, right? Like, one of the most efficient battalions in the game is a skull, which is like an ogre and a horde of cats, okay?
Yep.
If they can do that, if they can be off the board until any time in 3, right, and end up and just pop up anywhere on the board 9 inches away from an enemy, then so can the sneakiest of sneaky ninja rats, right?
Right.
And then their nimble dodge is on a 5+. It matches their save, right? So the Night Runners are 6 up, 6 up. The Gutter Runners are 5 up, 5 up, right?
Sure.
And there you go. Like, that's cool elite infantry. They have interesting defense. They both have some kind of poison. They both have, like, their range and their melee both do something now, right?
Yeah.
And there you go. Like, easy. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it makes Eschen playable. And one would assume, by the way, that like there would be synergies where you could run and charge or shoot, run and shoot or charge, and retreat and shoot or charge, just like you would expect a bunch of ninjas to do if they had their Kokagawa ninja team leader or whatever. Like if they had their, I'm trying to remember what it was called, Ninja Scroll, but yes. If they had that dude up front be like, then they could all do the thing, right? Like that would be it. All right. Yeah, I wanted to actually make scrolls for these because that's how invested I am in this. Clan Eschen book win. Fix this. Fix this abomination of this dangler part of one of the now better armies out there. I think Skaven is a solidly great army right now. It's not too good, not too bad. It's full of lots of fun options. It just has this huge goiter, and it's called Clan Eschen. Okay. Nito Burrito. And yes, I didn't do the assassin because I don't think he's like one of the worst roll scrolls in the game, but he would follow suit. Like his nimble dodge would be 4 up, and blah blah blah. Of course, pretty straightforward. All right, Tom, time for your controversial pick. You ready for the last 2? Here we go. Tom, this is the one you're gonna, I suspect, have to defend against lots of other things because there's a lot of bad war scrolls in this game. The Avatar of Cain. So this is the standalone statue. Like if you build the Bloodrack Shrine. I had to search around for this war scroll. This is not easy to find, by the way, in an obvious download place. Because you can't buy this guy individually. You can only get him in the kit. At any rate. Okay. Tom, tell us why this thing is so bad.
Well, let's start by saying, in order to build him, you have to build a Bloodrack Shrine.
Sure. But
so
again, that doesn't count. We're talking rules only.
Sure. You've already failed by building him.
Sure.
Sure. So let's talk about...
Good joke. Okay. By the way, this guy was originally 180 points. I would just point that out when he came out, that is truly madness. He is currently 140. Okay, go ahead, Tom.
He is priced identically to the Sigmar. And we're going to talk about that comparison here in a minute. He has a 9-inch move, 9 wounds on a 4+ save, as opposed to the Sigmar's 14 wounds on a 5+. He has a 10 bravery. He has 6 range attacks at 10 inches. On 3s and 3s, neg 1 damage. He has 4 Sword of Cain attacks at 3s and 3s, neg 2 rend 3 damage. Wow.
Which is good.
Look at all that damage.
I mean, this is one of the only people we've talked about tonight that has neg 2 rend.
Oh, Sigmar has it.
No, the shooting attack, sure. I mean, it's not common to see neg 2 rend in our stuff, but yeah, okay.
Yep, okay. So, but here's where the caveat comes in.
All right, I'm ready.
Let's talk about animated first. So here's the base rule for animated. He cannot move, he cannot shoot, he cannot be selected to fight unless a friendly Daughters of Cain priest uses the Wrath of Cain prayer to animate him in your preceding hero phase. Even if he has not been animated, he's still treated as a model in your army, with the exception that enemies can ignore him on movement.
Sure.
And they do not have to retreat if they want to move, but they can still attack him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
He just can't fight back.
And he can't fight back. He can't be selected for combat. And he is a idol, and he also has Idol of Worship. He gets +1 bravery to Daughters of Cain units within 7 inches. That Daughters of Cain unit, like 7-inch buff, by the way, does not stack with the shrines.
Right, because it's the same rule.
So, base, this guy never moves off your starting line setup.
Unless you pray to activate him.
Unless you roll a 3+ every turn.
Yes, correct.
So I don't care what any of his numbers are. You cut a third off because you're going to fail prayers.
Sure.
On a 1 or a 2.
By the way, so let's put this in mathematical terms real quick, okay?
Right.
So a prayer on a 3-up, because you're not burning your Iron Circlet person on this. Like, that's not happening. Your Iron Circlet is going to Catechism of Murder every time. Get out of here, okay?
Yep.
So so the statistical odds of that are obviously like you have a 66 repeating, percent chance of success, right? So how does that compare to spellcasting? Okay, so spellcasting, that is the same as between a 6 and a 7 is where that falls. It's a little bit harder to cast than a spell that's a 6. It's a little bit easier to cast than a spell that's a 7. And I think people have a better anchor on that kind of stuff, right? Of how often you fail spells. Because we're just used to that.
To be clear, this guy does nothing if you fail that cast. He cannot attack back if he is being attacked.
Right. Until round 3. In round 3, he does wake up automatically. But yes.
He wakes up automatically in round 3. If the priests are killed out, he doesn't activate.
Correct. He just sits there in round 1 and 2. Yes.
Right. So he has a chance. So, like, we were hounding on giants for failing charges on a 1 in 6.
Yeah, they have about a 16% chance to just fail any charge. Yes.
This guy,
not counting the normal "oops, I didn't roll the dice" number. Yes.
This guy not only fails every charge on a 2 in 6 during those first turns, he fails to move, he fails to attack, he fails to do anything meaningful.
Right.
As Ghost Button said, you can't afford in this game to have anything simply do nothing.
Right.
For a round or 2. And so just his unreliability whips him off the table from viability.
To me, like, I get it. And I said you're going to have to defend this one because like, I think he's super bad. I'm just not sure if he's bottom 10, but he's
what other
bad.
Unit in the game does nothing? 0.
I get it.
It doesn't matter about your profile. Your profile is 0.
Yeah, I understand. Sure. And like the relevant part here is it's not just the failure of the prayers, right? Which is like highly probabilistically likely. A 1/3 chance is very high. Okay.
Of doing nothing.
Yeah. So it's not just that. It's that we're talking about the fact that that like you have a pretty limited number of prayers you can actually punch out in most Daughters armies, and those slots are usually taken. Like there's usually stuff you're wanting to do with those prayers. You don't often have a lot of additional prayers where you're just like, oh, and also I'll animate that random statue over there so it does something, right? And then even if you're making that choice with your limited resource, you then still have a chance to fail.
You can almost get 10 Canary for his price.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
And he's also has all of the problems of a monster.
Yeah, because he's a single dude and he's roaming around. He's on a small base.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's just not doing anything a third of the time during those
Right.
early turns.
Right.
And by the way, when you like, okay, yeah, in turn 3 he activates automatically and da. Cool story, bro. Your clerics are probably dead by then, so it's a good thing that he's auto activating.
Sure.
And you know, he's pretty far behind in combat. Like, he's nowhere near the front lines. If you've even lost one activation with him.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. And he only has 9 wounds on a 4-up save.
Yeah. Well,
9.
and also let's trot out his damage profile, because we talked about that neg 2 Ren 3 damage sword, which admittedly
it is a little bit more. It's a little bit more than a Sigor.
Yes.
Like in melee during rounds 1 and 2, he is doing on average half a damage more with his ranged attacks.
Yes.
And he's doing approximately like 1.1 to 1.5.
So here's the math. Yeah, here's the math.
Yep.
He has a 16% chance to do 0. Okay, against a 4-up save.
Oh, but that's, by the way, that's not if he's not activated.
Yeah. I'm assuming he's activated, of course.
So you got to cut all of these by 66 or by 33%. You got to remove a 33% off of all these values.
I'm gonna give you the stats for him activated, but yes.
Yeah.
If he's active, 16% chance he does 0 damage, 37% chance he does 3, 33% chance he does 6. That's the bulk of your damage profile there. So he's hitting for about 3, maybe 6 damage. That's kind of the middle of the area there, because basically it has to go in 3s because that's his sword profile.
Right. Yeah.
So, yes, like, it's challenging. It's challenging. I mean, like, I wasn't a believer in this, Tom, but yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Let's reiterate this. He does nothing in rounds 1 and 2.
Sure. So fix him. Let's fix him. Let's make him nice, Tom. How do we make him nice?
This is the empowered avatar of Cain.
Oh, okay, got it. I was going to say eliminate him from the book. Okay, got it, because he didn't need to be there.
No.
But no, go ahead.
No. He's the empowered avatar of Cain. Which means that he's always animated.
Yeah, we just cut all of those rules are just gone. Yes.
Okay. And you can leave the animated, by the way, on the shrines.
Sure, because they actually wake up the one on the back of their shrines. Sure. It's not out and walking around. Yes.
Right.
Like,
because
how did that thing Here, question, Tom. How did that thing get to the fight? Was there literally a hag like behind it, like, wake up, and then it walks to the waist and then stops, and she's like, wake up. Nothing happens. She's like, ow, I took a mortal wound. Because remember, when they fail prayers, it hurts them.
Right.
All right.
So it's like,
walk, you stupid rock.
Cynthia, you're on avatar duty again.
Oh, man. How many hags died just getting one of these things to the battlefield by rolling ones?
Because, like, so the key is, like, the shrines. And, like, as if all this wasn't bad enough, I want to bring this loop to a close because before we fix it. The one ability that it has that's not damage, which, by the way, this army doesn't really need damage.
Sure, yeah, it's got damage in it coming out in just oodles and oodles of it everywhere.
Right. But the one utility this thing brings is the +1 bravery, which is great utility, but it doesn't stack with the shrines.
Right. Because the reason it's so useful, by the by, whereas normally I would write that off as a who cares, in Daughters it's really impactful because Mind Razor is really dependent on you having higher bravery than an enemy. So.
Right. So you really need that +1, as you need as much bravery buffing as you can. And so, so here's how you do this. You make it so that you don't have to activate him.
Yep. Easy. Slam dunk. He's awake. He got to the fight somehow. He's awake.
And then, you ready for this?
I'm ready, man.
Awe of Cain.
Okay.
Add 1 to the bravery characteristic of friendly Daughters of Cain models that are within 7 inches of this this empowered avatar of Cain.
Sure. So it does stack with the other one, right?
Yeah. And so suddenly there's a function to this.
Sure. I would also up his sword attacks to 6 as well, by the way.
No, I wouldn't. Leave it at 4. It's fine. Like, it's not stellar. Like, I would love 6, but then you got to up the points.
That's fine. I'm not sure that's a bad thing. Let me just say that.
Sure, and that's fine.
Like 140 points is pretty crowded in the Doc army right now. That's a crowded space.
Right, like, yeah. There are a number of ways to fix him. It's just he needs to have a function. And again, it's like if he's just bringing damage, that's just not a lot in this army.
Yeah, I
he doesn't have
I'm just trying to push him up to have like where he can actually do something in combat. Basically, is what I'm pushing at.
Sure, and that's fine. I like the neg 2 rend. Like again.
Yep.
Or you could call this Ensouled Avatar of Cain.
Sure.
And make him a hero.
Oh, that's neat. That's a neat idea. See, I like that along with your all worship thing. I think you've got an interesting take there.
Right. And suddenly it becomes like enough that you need to consider like, am I trying to stack bravery? You probably still won't be able to get higher than the bravery 10 that a bunch of stuff has.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. But it could make a difference, you know, and then suddenly if you could give him an item, maybe you're in a space where he's usable.
Sure. May I suggest a small, interesting, additional utility buff to him? I mean, like, maybe if he's not a hero, maybe here's another option. Right?
Okay, sure.
So,
I got an idea.
Oh, go ahead. Go with your idea. I'll wait. This is your scroll.
Yeah, step Frenzy up one stage around him.
Oh, like he can push the Blood Rights table up, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, you just say like Inspire Frenzy. And
yeah,
like,
that's where I was going to go, but let me tell you how I was going to do it. You ready?
Okay.
Here's like yes, that's exactly where I was going, but let me tell you what I was going to trigger it off of. Okay. Daughters of Cain kind of like blood. Not sure if you heard about that. It's a thing. They love it. They like reveling in it, fighting in it, you know, rolling around in it, like a dog who finds something stinky in the yard. But they're like that with blood. And he happens to have this missile attack called Torrent of Burning Blood. Okay.
Sure.
So like here's his thing. If he hits a unit with his Torrent of Burning Blood, just hits. Okay.
Yep.
Then any attacks made against that unit, like your friendly units, are treated as one step higher on the blood rights table.
Sure.
That's how you push them up, because they're already like there's a lot of blood. They're into it. You know what I mean? It's more blood is being spilled, right?
Yep. They're in the shower. They're in the spray zone.
They're in the spray zone. Exactly. It's like Double Dare. You're in the spray zone. Yeah, exactly. You're at a Gallagher concert. Yep. Yes, exactly. Then that'd be cool. We're like, oh, neat. Okay, so like then there's this neat synergy that's happening where he's moving up. He's automatically animated. He's adding to their bravery by them being near him. Right, so he's helping you be more mind razery, and when he then spits on them, then you go for like if it's round 2 when you theoretically engage, then all of a sudden you're treating it as round 3s and you're getting the good rerolls, right?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, right on.
So I really think he's in the bottom 10 because there's simply no other unit in the game that does nothing for any portion of the game.
Sure.
Barring other units being in the game, being on the table.
Yeah, no, it's you're not wrong. Like there is no other unit that acts like this. Yes.
And again, it's not even like a small chance of doing nothing.
Yeah, it's significant.
Even if again, like that's if those units aren't there for whatever reason, then it does nothing. But even if they are there, it's still going to fail on a 33% chance of the time.
Right. Yep. Yeah, agreed. Okay. Let's do my last scroll. This is going to be my I have to defend it one. You ready?
Yep.
All right. He's got a pretty picture. Pretty picture for the Knight Questor. Okay. So, let's talk about the Knight Questor. And I'll openly admit, like, I probably am a bit... I went back and forth on this 5th slot a lot of times. There was a lot of other things slotted in here. Chaos Warhounds were slotted in here for a little while. The Herald on Blood Throne was slotted in here for a little while. Okay. Those are all close competitors. And if somebody wanted to say, I think those are in the bottom 10, I'm not sure I'd argue you out of it. But let me talk about this guy nonetheless. Knight Questor. Knights Questor have vowed to stand as shields between the denizens of the mortal realms and the depredations of chaos. It falls to these heroes to undertake great quests in Sigmar's name. They adventure across the realms and beyond to slay terrible enemies or recover arcane artifacts whose power can turn the tides of war. Okay? So that sounds like these guys are these are big, awesome heroes, right? And as a point of fact, like Knight Questors and Soulbound are amazing and will kick your teeth right down your throat and back out the other side. Okay? In the Stormcast army, these guys are completely useless. I cannot picture why you would ever put this in a list. And he's bad even compared to most heroes. Let me walk you through his, so defensive-wise, he seems fine. That almost feels like he could have his purpose, because he's like 5-inch move, 5 wounds on a 3-up rerollable save because of his shield. Right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good defense. His challenge ability is stupid. Okay. Whatever. He can pilot an extra 3 inches, but only with heroes, and he has to go to that hero, and so on and so forth, and whatever. And his Thunder Charge Strike, you add 1 to the damage of the Knight Questor's Warblade if the wound roll was 6 or more. Okay? Again, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, neg 1 damage. It will not surprise you to learn that this guy's average damage is in fact 1. So there we go. So the great hero, who's the bulwark against chaos, okay, does an average of 1 damage. I saw some people mention that, like, he sounds kind of like the Exalted Warrior, all the Exalted Heroes of Chaos. I did that. I went through all the Exalted Heroes, all the different, like, Aspiring Deathbringers, and Exalted Heroes, and an Exalted Deathbringer, and whatever, all that nonsense. They're all better as far as, like, either because they have command abilities or could do more damage. Every one of them beat him out on that kind of stuff.
Oof.
Okay?
Oof.
Because, like, they were all in my picks as well. But some of them have, like, really good command abilities or just stuff. So this guy is a completely utility-free hero, right? He has no utility. He is a solo operator. That's his idea, right?
Yep.
He is a solo operator that marches up into a fight and does 1 damage. Against, like... By the way, that's against 4-up saves. But he's a hero fighter, right? Hero fighters don't have, oftentimes, just a regular 4-up save, and that's it, right?
I mean, he rerolls hits. He rerolls fails hits against enemy heroes.
Yes, if he does his little challenge thing. Correct. But my point is that, like, by the way, that doesn't move his damage that much, but yes. Like, oftentimes heroes have 3-up saves, or even better. Like, heroes often have 3-up, 2-up saves, rerolling, extra feel no pains. Like, we've talked about crappy heroes tonight. Lotan's got a 5-up. Slavity Biopiper has a 5-up. He's doing less than 1 damage against these guys, mathematically. Okay? When he can't take down Slavity Biopiper, alright? Like, that's not a great day for him. For this ultimate Stormcast hero. Like, this guy just fails completely at his job. And he's one of the most sad heroes in the game. It's a shame because he is, like, by the way, an amazing model. I super love this dude. I mean, proof in the pudding. They did a whole the like special paint comp at Golden Demon every year at the main Golden Demon. There's a special category where everybody has to paint the exact same figure and you cannot modify it in any way. And this was the figure from 2 years ago. Or 3 years ago now.
Because it's a great sculpt.
Yes. Right? Beautiful open pose, beautiful, like, classic Stormcast look, like, the hero. Just like him standing there with his cape blowing in the wind, right? Yeah, but he doesn't do anything, right? So.
Poor guy.
Poor guy. The Skate says, is he worse damage than Mr. D6 attacks? Somehow he's yeah, like he does. That guy was close. I had a fight with him, and that other guy knew exactly what you're talking about. But yes, that guy can do more things for various reasons. Okay. The how do we fix this guy? Simple. We make him into what he should have been. Right? We make him into a hero that actually kicks people's teeth in, right? Like, he's still a 5-wound hero on a 5-inch move with a 3-up save that's rerollable. Great. I'm down with all of that. That's all fine. I'll even keep the heroic challenge ability, okay, as silly as it is, but like, I get it. That's his point. He's a hero slayer, right? Yeah. We're just gonna up his fighting capabilities some. Okay. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna move his rend up to -2, and we're gonna move his damage up to 2. That's just baseline. That's where we're starting out. Okay, and we're gonna put him up at 6 attacks. Like, let's give this guy a profile, right? So 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2, 2 damage. Okay.
Yeah, as Michael just said, maybe reforge him.
Indeed. Okay. We're going to get rid of that dumb Thunder Charge Strike rule because I hate stuff like that. Like, weird added damage on a 6 to wound where it splits out. Like, no.
Here, just okay. Go ahead and go with your suggestion.
You can
modify that really easily.
Give me your modification. I want to hear what's yours.
On natural 6 to wound, do a mortal wound in addition to the normal damage.
Yeah, I was going to give him a D3 on a 6 to wound because it's on the wound roll.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Correct. Like, I was just going to have him kick a D3 mortals in addition to any other damage he would do.
Yep. Right? Yep. That'll resolve it, and that'll actually make him a hero killer.
Yes, 100%.
Because he'll do a couple damage, 2 to 3 maybe might get through, and then if he rolls any of those 6s, that could push him into the 5 damage and kill solo heroes.
Now let me give you the last ability. You ready for this, Tom? Here's where we're gonna get nuts. I'm gonna write a new rule that I don't think I've seen anybody else have, but here we go. Since they mentioned it up above, right? Okay, so he's gonna be called like Bearer of Legends or something, right? And if you select this hero to be in your army, he may always carry an additional artifact of power in addition to the normal artifacts of power you get assigned for your list. And it comes off the standard Stormcast table.
Yep.
He can always have an artifact because he is the big damn hero and he has cool gear. Yeah. Right? But he's a D&D hero in this world, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, what you say is you just say that he can choose a bonus artifact off of the Stormcast, whatever pages.
Yeah, I don't remember all their different tables because they have tables upon tables upon tables, magic horns and magic banners and magic lanterns and magic everything. And obviously he's not taking any of that stuff, right? He's just taking one off the basic like Stormcast heroes list.
Yeah.
Right. And there we go. Like, he's an offensive threat. He fits. He works like this solo operator. He's not meant to inspire anybody. He doesn't have a command ability. He's not a utility guy. He's a dude who you put in your army to go march out alone, and he goes out and he slays enemy heroes, right? He's there to do that stuff.
Yep.
There you go. Nice. And by the way, that all those changes, he'd probably be like a 120-point hero. Right? Like, he'd go up like 20 points.
Because he's not that, like, he's still marching around the battlefield, and he has to still get stuck in, and he's still okay.
And most of his stuff is still only against heroes, which means, like, with a 5-inch move of a dude walking, anybody with brains in their head just chaffs him with anything else. Right?
Right.
So, yeah, he's still not that good. But just, there you go. Like, that actually would make him a potent threat. So, there you go.
I'm in.
Cool. That's all our worst scrolls. So those are our 10 worst scrolls. There you go. If you have your own, drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear what you all think we missed. I've mentioned a lot of other near competitors that were like close. Wild Riders was another one I went back and forth on for a while. Regular
There's
Tree
so
Lords
many.
were one I went back and forth on for a while. Like, boy, oh boy. Chaos Warhounds, I mentioned those. Boy, those were in the mix for a while. Razor Gores. I don't even know what that guy's purpose is in the universe. There was lots of near misses that, like, that are so close. I was just like, ultimately, I said, eh. Right. So there you go. But I'd love to hear what yours are. Drop them down in the comments. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday wherever you are. If you celebrate Christmas, then I hope you have a great Christmas. I hope if you don't, and this isn't a holiday, this is a holiday period for a lot of people. So if you're celebrating any of those holidays, I hope it's really good for you. If not, if you celebrate none of that crap, then I just hope you have a great last week of 2020. This has been a rough year. We'll be back to end out the year next week with our predictions for 2021. Next week will be our annual New Year's Predictathon, where we strap on the old take off the Santa hats, put on the tinfoil hats, and get down into what we think is coming in 2021. So wherever you are, whatever you celebrate, I hope you celebrate it well. Even if you're not with family, I know a lot of people are probably wisely not getting together with their family this year. That's the smart choice. Be responsible, be safe. And I hope everybody is safe and happy and has a wonderful end to a all in all kind of crappy year. By kind of, I mean darn crappy year. And let's pivot into a better 2021. So thank you so much. Don't forget to hit like on the way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. But as always, thank you so much, everybody, for watching this one. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.